Dobro požalovat. Hello everybody to the final matchup of round 1 of Revival Tournament, brought to you by Revival Divisions League. That is us. It's a cloudy 24 degrees Celsius from the outside, and despite the warm weather, you've decided to stay indoors and enjoy the show we are providing you with. Well, to be fair, you might be watching on your terrace, your pavilion, or your private yard outdoors too, but you get the idea. We are just in time because Argentina, spoilers, just beat Egypt 3-2 in extra time after being down 0-2 until the 79th minute, somehow. My name is Mathis and I'm your host for today. The trailer you saw at the beginning was made by the lovely Torsolman, one of our designers. It is uploaded to our YouTube channel, so if you want to rewatch it, type !YouTube in the chat and you will be directed right to our channel. Not only will you find the trailer there, but also other videos, including VODs of every livestream, because we multi-stream to Twitch and YouTube simultaneously. So, all the more reason to head over to our channel and subscribe to not miss out, in case Twitch is not your cup of tea. I personally struggle with navigating around VODs on Twitch, and YouTube just makes it so much easier. Again, !YouTube in the chat, go subscribe. While you're at it, don't forget about our Discord channel. Use !Discord to join the community in case you want to reach out or need to read up on the rule set. Everything you may ever need can be found on our Discord server. Yesterday, we watched Elysium beat Oiboy in a 2-0 sweep on an exciting Ghoul and Oni set, which has allowed Elysium to move on to round 2 of the higher bracket, where they'll face off Serene next week, one of the lucky 4 of our 12 invited teams that received the privilege of skipping round 1. You might have a couple questions on how exactly the bracket works with 12 teams in the tournament. The seeding was entirely randomized, meaning any team could have skipped that round 1. Use the command !challenge in chat if you're not satisfied with just seeing the bracket on screen and want to get a better understanding of team placements and what paths are set out for them in the tournament. Results are posted there quicker than on our graphics as well, since everything is hand-designed, and on Challenge it only takes me a couple clicks, so do take advantage of what Challenge has to offer. Oiboy descended to the lower bracket and will face either Petroleum or Mercy in 2 weeks, and who are battling it out next week. Enough talk about the past, let us focus on the present. As you can tell by the images on screen as well, I'm not the caster, I am the humble host and streamer in the background, but that also means if anything is delayed, scream at me, not my team. I might tune in every once in a while, however, so don't act surprised if it happens. If you have watched any of the previous matches this week, you will be very familiar with the faces on screen, and they need no further introduction. So without any further ado, I say ladies first today and wish our first caster a cool welcome for today, since we are midsummer. Good afternoon, Jules. How are we doing today?
Doing pretty well today, yeah. Very exciting matchup. We have Umbrella versus Invictus, and the first set we're going to be going into is more of a classic one. We have had some kind of funky maps lately, but this is going to be a very standard Wesker on Coal Tower 1, I believe. A lot of favorites in the community, but this is one of the number ones, and especially for these teams. I think both of them very fond of the set. They mutually agreed on the Mastermind set, so going to be seeing some high-level gameplay from both sides. And I'm joined by Cyber as well, but yes, in the meantime, very exciting stuff. I'm excited to go into it today with you guys.
Yes, this should be a very good matchup. Starting off with Mastermind, that's always such a fun set here. It's a mix of very mobile killer that can bounce around the map and put a lot of pressure in places, while also having not the most lethality in chase. Mastermind has definitely been known as recent times to struggle around some fillers and some pallets, as well as people have just gotten better versus Mastermind over time. It's definitely just shown to be more and more challenging, but I mean, these are 2 top teams here. You can't discount what these killer players can do at any point ever, so I have almost no idea what we're going to be expecting in this trial.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And I think we did touch upon this a little bit yesterday. We have a little bit more lax balancing. I believe full exhaustion is allowed in this set. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some blast mines, maybe some healing perks, such as Solidarity will make it is allowed. Interesting little niche perk that is a little bit more of a recent one also is Duty of Care might come into play. We'll have to see about that. At least that is on the survivor end. We have hexes and stuff like that allowed on the killer, but we don't know what we will see quite yet. From the viewing POV at least. I think we're starting Invictus on the killer first. They did switch the set order today, so Most likely Pedro will be going in as the Mastermind in a minute or two, but we are setting up the lobby now.
Yeah. Starting off with Pedro and Killer. This is probably, I don't know if I'd say it's one of Pedro's most confident sets, but Pedro always needs to perform in this set. When you think of Mastermind, he has to be one of the first names that comes to your mind. Pedro always is showing up on Wesker, always very good at playing around the bounds around tiles. Not necessarily, I would say, always the flashiest, but you don't need to be. Pedro's consistency. He is always having the right idea of how he wants to play around certain tiles and fillers, and also the idea of what gen setups they want to try to best utilize to hold on to for the game for as long as you possibly can.
Mhm. Yeah, I've seen more and more Mastermind 4K ones recently after he got some hitbox changes, some overall changes. His hitbox is a lot more forgiving on the killer end. He tends to hit through windows and pallets a lot more often, and that's very unforgiving for the survivors sometimes. Can make chases last much shorter, and you can't really loop the shack as well. You can't loop some tiles as well. Of course, still not the strongest killer in the game. He's definitely outable by any means. But I mean, this really can go either way. Pedro, like we said, very experienced killer. We've seen him 4K on Mastermind time and time again, and sometimes very high stages as well. I would expect a lot out of him. And same with Umbrella, to be honest. These are both very high level teams. And like we said yesterday, very interesting that they're both in the round one. This is randomized. I believe Cyber himself was overseeing that earlier this week. And given that they are in round one of these teams, these top teams are guaranteed to drop into the lower bracket. If you look at our bracket, which is !point bracket in the chat, after one of these teams drop into the lower bracket, it can be X9 in the higher bracket, I believe, next weekend. Whoever wins this will go on to meet them. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to watch, I think, but we'll have to see about that. I don't know if you have any more remarks on Mastermind, Cyber, but I'm excited to talk about the other sets too, which I believe are Freddy and Spirit on some very interesting maps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can't talk about Freddy recently and not talk about Bubbo Zaver performing on Freddy. Bubbo has recently been playing so well on Freddy. Winford, if I'm not mistaken, I think their most recent Freddy set that I've seen at least was a very unique style. It was just hard 3-gen Freddy. I'm pretty sure it had stuff like Dragon Script in play. It had stuff like Call of Brine. I think we didn't want Paymres. We just harder playing the normal, like what you'd expect like a Singularity to possibly play is what we were doing on Freddy, and it was working. Now, I will say that was on Dead Dog Saloon, so a little bit better of a 3-gen in that Gallows area that I think we were trying to utilize in that trial, but still, it was the idea behind it. I don't think I'd ever seen Freddy play that defensive before, and it was working. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was versus Praxis, I want to say, but I could be wrong. But it's just a different idea of how you want to play that killer. Bubbo is always having new ways that he wants to come at these sets, new ways he wants to try to approach these killers that are so proven and defined already in the comps of how they should really be played. Most times on Freddy, you see a lot of like Corrupt Intervention, Pain Res, Sloppy Butcher, maybe Pop Eruption. Your most tempo is going to be you go get a hook, you take a Pain Res, you teleport across the map, you pop kick a gen, maybe get a Sloppy Butcher tag, come back, go for a tunnel out, and then try to get yourself in the 3v1, and then just use your Pain Res Pop or Pain Res Eruption, get Sloppy. It's the same game kind of every time, I'd say, Julia.
Yeah. The same game kind of every time, except I believe this time the match we played on a different map today. We have let me look real quick. We have Nightmare on Temple of Purgation. This is not a very common map at all. Temple of Purgation, typically a little bit more on the killer sided end too. Sometimes tends to be a little bit more of a 4K. I think that really just depends on what filler pellets you can get to. There's usually only 2 tiles on the entire map, which can be a little bit rough sometimes. But I mean, maybe Freddy will get a little bit of a buff on this particular map. We'll have to see. But like you said, tend to get that tunnel out, and then you tend to play in the 3v1. And the 3v1 against the Freddy can be a little bit deadly, I think. Just very hard to get resets, like you said, with Sloppy Butcher. And then the next set, we are going to be going into Spirit once again on a strange map. We have Mother's Dwelling. So that might be a little bit easier for the Spirit, I want to say, just because the footsteps are louder, but these teams have killer players that are already so good at tracking anyways, so I'm not sure it will even matter. Mother's Dwelling, though, very strong map for Survivor. Very large map in general, too. That main building can be a little bit rough. Kind of difficult to traverse from one side of the map to the other too quickly. Especially for Spirit, who, though she does have a little bit of mobility, not quite enough for that large of a map sometimes, so maybe she'll have to play in a smaller area, try to I don't know. I mean, what do you think about that, Cyber? Do you think that Spirit will have an easier time or a harder time on that map? I'm not totally sure.
I think Spirit is probably going to struggle a lot more. That map is decently palette dense still, but like you said, it is a large map. Spirit's normal home that 99% of players are used to is Wrecker's Yard, where everything is so tightly compact. You can one phase between all of your generators, basically. It's so much easier to just have that understanding of the map as Spirit, where going into this, you need to probably identify a 3-gen early on and not go past a certain threshold on the map. You can push out and get downs at a lot of the stuff, but it's just going to be going back and forth. It is going to be so punishing. And going back to how Bubba was innovative on Freddy recently, we have to talk about Pedro on Spirit. Pedro, if I'm not mistaken, is the only player who currently has been foregoing the Muddy Sports Stick cap. Now, I don't know what they're currently playing in this trial, but historically speaking, every Spirit player plays the Rusty Flute add-on for that 40% regeneration of their power. The second add-on most people play, that has almost always been played on Spirit, is the Muddy Sports Stick cap for that 10% extra speed. Just a little bit faster to try to play around people at pallets to traverse the map. For most people, it makes the most sense. Pedro has been playing the Talisman add-on, going for a little bit more duration and foregoing speed, which shows me more of a want to try to play the mind game of it rather more than quickly rushing around the palace with your phase and swinging, just trying to hit them over top of it. So definitely a bit interesting here, and I wonder what's going to be stronger on that map. What do you think, Julia? Speed or duration?
Yeah, on a larger map like that, I almost wonder if duration is the way to go, 'cause Wrecker's Yard, yeah, speed, very, very important for playing around those loops. Maybe you'll find a car loop, and speed is very important on that. Maybe you'll find a crane, and you can definitely outplay the crane as the Spirit in particular, especially with speed. And yeah, like you said, Talisman, just a very uncommon pick, but it really depends on the map, right? A lot of killers have add-ons that are better on some maps and not on others, and you really have to make that choice for yourself. But I kind of would agree with duration, I think, for the time being. We'll have to see what Pedro brings if we do get to the tiebreaker, which is definitely possible. Both of these teams, very strong. Both of these teams have played against each other time and time again. Won, lost, both directions I've seen them go, and I think for the most part, Invictus tends to come out on top, but Umbrella is definitely not too far behind. They're both very strong teams. So we are starting out on the Umbrella end. Like I said, we have Pedro on the killer. It's going to be Wesker on Coal Tower 1, just to reiterate. And yeah, Cyber, I mean, I think this will be a very interesting best of 3.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And one thing we haven't also talked about, we've talked a lot about the killer players. One thing else to talk about is, I think, arguably the stronger part of Umbrella, that serve side. The serve side Umbrella, those players have been together for so long. When you think about, maybe I think it was a year or two ago, we saw the big shuffle up of teams once Eternal had disbanded, and we had Invictus, we had what was Nocron that became Praxis now, and we had Elysium had a huge shuffle. The players of Umbrella, they've changed names a couple times on this team, but historically, they've all been the same. They've all performed so well together. And I think it's just staying tried and true to that. The synergy of these players, the understanding of how long they're going to last in chases, of how they need to play around each other for hit tanks. I almost would say it is the best tempoed serve side of understanding each other, never having to kind of guess or not be confident in the decision making of one another in these games. As the serve side has just always been pristine, I'd say, Julia.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And yeah, I mean, with perks allowed, like I'm very interested to see how Duty of Care works on a Mastermind set. To be honest, with perks allowed like that, I would not be surprised if the Survivor team runs that. Maybe even with Medal of Man, that is an allowed combo. Once you take a hit like that against the Mastermind, you can make it across the entire map. That is a huge speed boost. It is a little bit tricky sometimes to take hits against the Mastermind if maybe you get thrown with Beetle in a different direction, but for the most part, it's pretty consistent. you might be able to make it very, very far to a safer tile. However, Coal Tower, one of the maps that resources are not infinite, however, can definitely make the most out of them. You play your chase at shack, you play the fillers, maybe you get some good tiles along the right and the left sides of the map, and then you try and play main. And I mean, honestly, at that point, the gens are done, right? It's kind of that kind of game. But Wesker is definitely not a killer that can fall too far behind. He can throw survivors, he can catch them off guard, play some tricky tiles with great bounds and great mind games. And we are loading into the trial now to see that in action.
Yeah, I am excited here. I think really a lot of Wesker games come down to a bit the early game to some degree. Because like you said, if you can go play Shack and somehow take that chase all the way across the map once the gens on that side of the map are popped, and the game's just kind of over. If in that first chase you have all of the resources, you have all of the pallets up to play. And it also comes down to RNG. We'll have to see. Do you have safe jungle gym tiles, or are you stuck with the TNLs, window gyms, the lightning tiles? So it's going to be very, very intriguing to see. But yeah, we are almost into this trial, as it'll be, like you said, Pedro starting on the Wesker, and we'll have Umbrella on that survivor side.
Yeah. And this Survivor team, probably one of the best Survivor teams in the world, by the way. Umbrella's Survivor team is what shines here. We are loading into the trial. I think we are having an unfortunate restart, though. Going to have to restart real quick, so forgive us for that little hiccup there, but we will be loading right back in just a second. We'll see what's wrong in just a moment as well. I think there is crash, so no penalty. So it won't be any sort of penalty, all good. But we did have a player crash, unfortunately. So gonna be a slight delay, but no worries at all.
Yeah, we are already back and starting that load in. But something else to touch on, Julie, that I'm intrigued by is Wesker's one of the killers that you can get a little bit experimental with the builds. Then it's not the same every time, at least I should say. You obviously are still going to have your Corrupt Intervention, your Pain Res. Those are basically your two stock standard. I almost never see people deviate from that. But then you're talking about your Pop Goes the Weasel, your Eruption. It's been seen before that people also have gone Totems before. I think there might be Turn Back the Clock available. You can go Brutal Strength. What are your thoughts on what is the best perk choice here for Wesker?
I personally like full regression. That's my favorite. I know Brutal is definitely more of a comfort pick and definitely can help on a palette dense map like Coal Tower. But running things like Turn Back the Clock, and then of course the classic four, Pain Res, Corrupt, Eruption, and Pop, that is definitely a good way to go, I think. But we are loading in now. We are back, and it is actually Pedro's build. We are having full regression here. Pain Res at 4 stacks, Pop, Eruption, and Corrupt is now blocking 3 generators bottom side, which, by the way, looks like we have only 3 gens bottom, so definitely a 4 gen top going on, and a survivor alerting us to their presence over at edge, and we do start chase instantly with Swatter. He is playing around this maze tile. He's got the pallet side, he's got pallet control, but this is a little bit hard to see. You can't really check spot this too well. He's heading back to the pallet, I think he just sent it, actually. A very good send by Swatter. Pedro actually just choosing to leave. I'm a little bit surprised he was zoned into that corner, but maybe wants to catch a different survivor off guard. That's going to be Bubbo taking chase at the main building. We're going to be playing around the window. I do not think Pedro hits that. He's going to be vaulting after him, though. And is this a head-on, perhaps? Maybe. No, it's not, but he does make it to this filler next to the main building. Going to be playing around this. This is not the safest filler, Cyber. And he does get tagged. Oh, maybe not. He gets thrown, but not quite tagged. Gonna be playing his chase a little bit longer.
Yeah, I would like to point out here, we already saw Bubbo has gotten a Totem Cleanse, and that got us 2 perks usage. We have Inner Healing up, and we have Overzealous. So no matter what, we have either Health State back if we leave this chase, or some Gen Speed if we do not take a tag. But it looks like we might actually be switching over targets. I think there was someone else possibly here at this tile that we are going to end up electing to go for. And no, actually, that'll just be Pedro heading back towards that top mid and no longer wanting to chase Bubbo. So Bubbo, because we got thrown and did not impact any structure, we did not lose our Overzealous and get injured. Instead, I think we found Swatter here. Or maybe no, this is going to be DeRice who's going to be taking this tag at this Godrock, taking it to the shack right now. We have the lucky break, but I don't think we're going to be breaking line of sight anytime soon, as instead beelining it straight for the Shack, have the pallet on the top side, immediately going to be slamming that to play it safe, and now pulling that back Shack. Pedro goes for one dash over the window, doesn't have the bamboozle, so it is still going to be open for Rice to play. Looks like a bit of a mind game here, going to end up just vaulting traditionally over the top of that window, but we have the hill and no bounce landing. Double vault's going to be used. One dash is all we need for Pedro, and that'll be Rice on the shoulder, but we already see that first gen pop. We do have Hardwell in tow, about to pop the second, and ooh, I might be wrong here, Julia, but I think there were no pain reses bottom, and we didn't end up taking one. We instead elected for that hill hook, so if our survivor team can identify this, this could be brutal for Pedro if the survivors just all force the deaths around Shack.
Yeah, and because Swatter kind of distracting him a little bit in the middle of the map, that gen will pop. I'm not totally sure if he would have made it to there. I think he would have popped that gen anyways, but still, he gets the tag onto Swatter. Definitely good to get an extra tag, but that means in the meantime, Rice off the hook, going to be healed up right now. And I don't think they actually make this heal. They're definitely trying for it, but I don't think they make it. He's going to be going to this filler. Jake going to be taking a slam against that pallet, but that gets Rice a lot of distance towards the top side, and I think we're just committing for our tunnel out, and there is a very distinct lack of scratch marks here. Like you said, lucky break from earlier, but he does not lose the survivor. He's still very much caught on. Going to be playing around this kind of unsafe 4-lane. Pedro going for a little bit of a mind game. I think he has maybe enough distance to catch him, and I think, yes, it does hit. He slams him against the wall, but not before another gen pops. Oh my goodness, the Umbrella team is definitely not slacking by any means on the gen prog.
Yeah, absolutely, and Rice was able to make it decently far up the map here. We had that first chase bottom, we popped 2 topside gens. We have that second chase come up, and if he popped our final topside gen that we cared to work. And now Rice has the main building to play for that final chase. Hardwell going to be taking this chase now in the corner of the map, not vaulting that pallet super early. We have the finesse lights, so we have a little bit of safety in that regard. But it looks like we are going to just be going right back to that hook, and Rice coming off the hook at the same time has that basic endurance for 15 seconds right now. Looks like trying to make it to the main building. It's going to be Swatter taking that M1. Rice, though, is going to be able to get some good distance off that around the back of main building, vaulting over top of that window. Pedro not getting the vault themselves is going to allow Rice to make quite a bit of distance here. Now just holding around that main. Which side is Pedro coming from? Looks like we are going to end up breaking that sin car, blinding the pallet. That is going to be Champion of Light, 20% hinder onto Pedro here. And now we have the aura of this killer. We are wrapping around this. Actually, is that throwdown? I think that is. We have the aura, I think, on Rice. As, yeah, that's going to buy a lot of distances. Correct me if I'm wrong. That gives basically a second hit of Lucky Break to this, but we are going to use the Fog Wow, and I think we just held the back of main building, so that will inevitably be Rice found once again, just running around this Sin Car, but the gen pressure is so much. Bubbo's already about to pop that 4th gen, and we have the other one halfway already, Julia.
Yeah, an excellent chase by Rice there, and yeah, this gen is being doubled here over at the bottom side. Very far away from the hook, but we are Wesker. We can definitely catch up to the gen with 2 bounds, and they have to leave because of that. Going to be making it to the gen in time to get that pop kick, and maybe chase after Swatter, who is injured in this tile here. I think he probably sent up the map, so Pedro does want to go back to the shack, maybe choose to get an injury onto Hardwell, I believe. And this gen pops as he gets to it. That's very important for that gen to pop, as this was the 3 gen. There was a 3 gen a little bit bottom side, and we had to pop that gen in the 3v1. Would have been pretty rough for the survivors if they had not, given the amount of gen regression and Wesker's strength. And Hardwell barely dodging out that. That was an excellent double dash, but Hardwell doing an even better job to round that corner there. And we're going to the main building, trying to stop perhaps Bubbo from popping the gen, but Bubbo is not in the main building. He's over here at the bottom side popping this generator, and main is at 0 almost. He's gonna kick it anyways for eruption, but I think this gen pops. I think Pedro maybe miscalculated a tiny bit how high that main building gen was at, and we are in endgame now at 3 hook stages, so maybe we have a chance to find Swatter here, find an extra chase, but we are going to be playing into Hardwell's chase. Hardwell has the finesse perk, going to be using Lithe as well to get some distance, but does choose to play at this window gym instead, and kind of jiggies a little bit over towards the top side, going to be completely sending it back behind the main building. He has a ton of distance, and the question now is this a 6 stage or a 3 stage, and if he even does get on that hook, is there a chance to save him for the 4 stages? It's possible. He's going to be holding him back main now. trying to get those extra 3 stages, but this is looking like it could be outs, I think. It honestly could be a 3-stage Cyber if they play this right.
Yeah, and it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, Bubba was pushing up to that other door that is closer to topside. Now Pedro is positioned in between Hardwell and the door, so looks like just trying to hold it here. Looks like Bubba might be forced off right now. Pedro accepting the fact that they're probably not going to commit on the Hardwell, instead just taking what they can on the Bubba, playing on the Godrock. 1 dash, 2 is going to be able to connect on that one, get a little bit of a throw here onto the back of that tile. The thing is, though, nobody is here for a hit tank. Hardwell is still stuck topside. Swatter is still injured, so no one really coming to your aid anytime soon, as Bubba just stuck playing this Godrock right now. Looks like is going to try to finally send it away. Do we have another Philip power? Yes, we do. Bubba Soffer is making this final chase last still quite a bit. We are having a hit tank coming now. Here comes Hardwell. This might be all we need to make it out of the map. The door is behind Shaq, if I'm not mistaken. Looks like Pedro there is immediately just going to double back, send it through Shaq, and I think this is going to be a little bit of a standoff here, as Hardwell probably is just going to try to get this reset as fast as possible. We have the empathic connection to try to get this heal, but that end game collapse timer is ticking. Mind gaming around the Shaq. Pedro just trying to play it safe, trying to force as much time as possible, but we're starting to get that heal. Hardwell taking that tag. It was not a throw, it was just a slam onto the tree. We're sending it to the door now. No more health states to be able to take hits here, and we're just running out of the map, and that will be all 3 survivors making it out of the trial. A 3-stage overall for Umbrella.
What a masterclass in the Survivor, and there's honestly no notes I can give in that endgame. They played that so well. I think maybe a tiny bit of a worry there when Bubbo got found and thrown. He definitely could have gone down if they played that a little bit worse, but no, they played that perfectly, managing to kind of force Pedro into a lose-lose there at the Shack. Healing them up, just getting that getting that exit. Very, very well played. A 3-stage is an incredible result on Wesker, especially after he got his buffs on his standard map. And yeah, that chase lasted 4 generators and a half. They had almost the last gen done by the time Durice had died in the trial, and just doing an excellent job with hit tanks, an excellent job with altruism. That blind, like you said, had throwdown at the main building. Maybe helped them a little bit as well, and just, I mean, they played so well. I mean, I honestly have no notes at all.
Yeah, absolutely, there is. Just what good Survivor gameplay. We talked about it a little bit. They had just such an understanding of where they wanted to take chases. They had so much gen progress. Pedro, obviously, it was a bit unfortunate that first hook was not a pain res. The game just, sometimes it's like that. You don't always get the luck of having pain res exactly where you need in those scourge hooks in those moments. But just after that, I think we only got 1 pop interruption on a gen that game. I think that was the only instance of regression. And then other than that, Pedro went to main building, kicked the gen, but it did not matter as we already had the bottom gen popped. So yeah, just what excellent coordination by the Survivor team. And then also, when they needed those hit tanks, I think, if I'm not mistaken as well, the person that blinded on that Sincar pallet to give champion and throwdown, I want to say, were they injured there, Julia?
The Survivor that blinded, I'm not entirely sure. I don't completely remember. Unfortunately, we don't have a replay for this game, but we will have it in the upcoming games. And yeah, I do have some other information from the sides. It is a 0.5 penalty, unfortunately, for Invictus. So I think he brought a wrong offering, which is very, very unfortunate for Invictus. I think, especially with the 3-stage, it's going to be a little bit of a tall task ahead of them. Invictus, of course, one of the best teams in the world, though. If anyone can do it, they can. And it's going to be, I mean, you're going to have to see a lot of altruism. You're going to have to see maybe head-ons, maybe some more teamwork throwdown. Who knows? Maybe duty of care. All of the exhaustions have to come into play perfectly. And utilizing the map, maybe we hope to get some good RNG here in the tiles along the sides of the map. And in the main building as well. I mean, what do you think they have to do, Cyber, here to get this 2-stage?
2 stages is very, very difficult, because normally you go into trials, and if you only need 3 stages, knowing as a killer, you only need 3 stages. You hook someone, you can just camp. If they want to crank gens, you just advance the stages. I think as long as your first chase isn't too long, you can just fully have confidence to camp. Most killers probably won't elect to do that, there is some risk at the end of the day that you get double saved last possible second. Bit of chance in that, but on the Survivor side, you need to just have insane chases. You need support to some degree, but also you need to allow your teammates to have as much gen progress as possible. as you really only should be taking hits, I would imagine, to traverse up or down the map. To get in between shack and main building probably should be the only times you're taking hits. If you're just going between the tiles and filler pallets, ideally you shouldn't really need too much help. If it is head on, like you said, which isn't going to cost any health states, or maybe some champion throwdown or something like that, I could understand it a little bit more, but overall I feel like it's just going to be individual chases along with maybe minor supporting just across the map.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Maybe we'll have to see Medal of Man come into play as well. Maybe that can help them out a little bit. But yeah, like it's really just going to come down to great chases. If somebody gets thrown edge map in this upcoming trial and two tapped, that might be kind of over for Invictus before it's even begun. And we have to have excellent gen pressure. Like we saw in the previous match, Umbrella was not slacking in the slightest on the gens. They had, I mean, Granout's chase, Derice's chase was not bad at all. But I think a lot of lower tier teams maybe would have had one gen bobbed for it, maybe two gens for his second stage, and this team just very, very efficient on the generators, making sure to take chases exactly where he needed to go without any help in this first chase or two. And we were kind of flip flopping back and forth between survivors a little bit for a while. We chased Bubbo. I believe we chased, we just chased multiple survivors there and couldn't find any sort of easy chases. So all the survivors here just doing an excellent job, keeping their distance, playing safe. There was an instant pre-drop on that pallet, bottom left, and we saw them playing around it pretty well, playing into the maze tile and the tile next to them. I think that was our Adam player, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, who was there. But we did see just an excellent gameplay of I mean, just chases in general, like you said, and that's how you get a 3-stage.
Yeah, absolutely. We are starting to go into trial number 2, and this is going to be exciting because, like you said, it's going to kind of be feast or famine early. We did have a throw in the previous trial pretty early on Bubbo, but we didn't impact anything. We didn't quite get the Euro bend to be able to throw into a tree, into an edge map, into really anything. So that first bound hit didn't come through, which then bought us so much time for the future chases here and just got us a bit of a jump start into that Umbrella serve side. But we'll have to see here as it'll be Invictus. Like we said, it'll be Grenout on Killer for Umbrella as we are in. We have Kexa, we have Rocket, we have Pedro, and we have Spitz. Now, I will say, looking at this lineup, all the Invictus survivors are good, but whenever I think of a hero chase, my mind always comes to Spitz. Spitz has been known in these moments to have the heroic chase when needed, and it looks like we are actually end up finding Pedro a very good chase survivor in that top mid, but it doesn't look like Granout wants anything to do with it. Maybe doesn't want to risk taking any bait if the survivor is actively wanting to be chased. For some reason, maybe they have these strong perks, but looks like instead just traversing the map. I think we might have kicked a gen and gotten some eruption applied. But we have Kexa, we have Spitz at the main building. We have Rocket starting up this generator. I think we are going to be finding someone around the back of main building here, and it's going to be a bit of a mind game onto Pedro. Going to be using one bounder on this. 2 is going to be connecting. We're going for a throw on the edge map, but no connection onto the corner, but I would imagine it's still going to be an M1 here, at least here, Julia.
Yeah, and I mean, he kind of does a good job of not getting tagged there, though. He makes it to this pallet without taking an M1. And yeah, that throw edge map, very, very unfortunate for our killer, but we are going to be playing on this pallet excellently, by the way. Champion of Light going to be coming through as that pallet gets kicked there, and I think Brutal Strength as well, that was on the killer end. So we did choose to not go with the 4 slowdown perks this time, which is acceptable, I think, on same ping. Definitely a little bit harder to down survivors without a chase perk if we are on same ping like we are here. And now playing around this 2 tile, gonna be instantly dropping this pallet gem and playing around it. And are we just leaving? I think, yeah, leaving. Maybe trying to find a chase in a better spot, trying to find one of the generators that had high progress. But Spitz is chasing in the corrupted area here over at the edge map. Gonna be playing around this long set of boxes, which, I mean, does he get tagged here? He actually might, maybe with his ping. No, he doesn't even drop the pallet. Just going to be taking that life towards the main building. Quite a bit of distance for him, to be fair. And he has, I think he can definitely make it to the main building vault as well. So he's going to be heading straight for it. Going to be playing around this. I don't think this hits. but he does maybe get the window vault. No, he doesn't. And if he doesn't get the window vault, then Spitz has another half map of distance to work with. So very unfortunate for Grenout, but and the blast mine. Oh man, it's just back to back. I mean, Survivors so far playing this very, very well, I think, and this is definitely on track to get that 2-stage.
I was gonna say, this is where, as a killer player, you have to start getting a little nervous. Obviously, still plenty of time left in this trial, but you've now had 2 chases that haven't ended up in your favor. You've eaten a blast mine. Gens are starting to look pretty high progress right now. We only need those 3 stages. We are going to end up finding Rocket here. We see the reset coming through on the Spitz, dashing around this tower. Not going to be quite able to get that hit, but I think we are going to maybe get this tag. No, we're not. We have the Shack Belt orientation. Perfect for us right now. Going to be dropping that, and we have another filler around it. Actually, we have quite a couple fillers around the Shack that we could chain to that window. Is Rocket now going to be crouching here, trying to play around it, but Rocket instead just burning that pallet, sending it back towards the Shack, pulling up the bound. 1 bound, 2, but a good patience there by Grenout is going to ensure the tag. We are not going to get sent through that window vault. Second gen does pop at the same time. Now, we did see Spitz get reset. Spitz, if I'm not mistaken, was our middleman in duty of care survivor, so if we see any hit tanks coming through, we definitely are going to have a lot of distance off of it. Rocket now just holding, being patient. Grenout also waiting, just trying to wait and see, can we get any support coming in? And yes, we have Pedro, who's going to come in and try to take a hit to ensure that we can make it to another tile. But I think a bit of miscommunication there is Rocket wanted to send it away and just fully leave this filler pallet. Well, Pedro, I think, had the intention of just wrapping it. So that'll be our first stage gained here. Pedro, we see playing extremely close, though, wanting to instantly go for that unhook as our first pain res token gets used.
Yeah, I'm gonna be unhooking in the face of the killer here. We do have sprint burst, we have BT, we have the extra bit of haste from that unhook, and gonna be sending it away. And are we just switching targets? It looks like we are switching targets onto Kexo. This is deceptively difficult for Wesker to play around with his power, but we are going to be swinging through the pallet regardless and getting the one on Kexo, who a little bit zoned now. He actually might be 2-tapped over on the edge map, but no, we missed the dash on the edge map. Not going to be hitting Kexo. He survives another day playing this window gym, sending it towards the mid map, and we did have a little bit of a double back there, but I think this might be a down if we hit. Yes, we do. We down Kexo. Not quite a 2-tap like it was kind of looking like for a second, and that was excellently played. But I mean, yeah, that's 2 stages out of the 3 that we need, and they are playing super, super well on the survivor end, but 1 more stage is a win.
We see Pedro waiting, wants to go for that second unhook. Just looking through the logs, trying to see which way is Grenout going to come around here. Looks like instead not going to be coming towards that top side, instead just going towards the Shack, probably going to break some pallets. Yes, we are just doing a little bit of housework here. Just cleaning up a little bit, going to be kicking the shot, applying our eruption. As Grenout's in a spot here where we can just fully camp this if we want to. We see Rocket sitting presumably on a top side gem, but no. We are going to let this unhook come through. Kexo going to be allowed to go free, but Grenout wants to commit onto this survivor. I think this is Spitz, if I'm not mistaken, who's playing around this tile and already at the Shack. Yes, it is. As Grenout fully spots the Dustin, who's going to be wrapping around the back of Shack here. We have both bounds up, holding power 1. Vault going to be used and hitting over the window. Wow, that is a crazy hit. We talked about it a little bit before this game. The hitbox has got a little bit buffed, more lenient towards the killer side. 1 bound, not going to be enough there to catch up to Spitz, as we have this eye filler in the top mid right now. Spitz going to be wrapping it. Is this a little too greedy here as we have the bound back? Not going to be going for the power drop. Instead, Spitz continuing to greed this. I think, though, Grenout's got to be close enough. 1 bound, 2, and that is enough here as we saw Pedro coming in here, but it looks like Spitz making a beeline for that pallet, and Pedro just trying to apply pressure, wanting to threaten. Maybe we get a flashlight save, as I think this is our flashlight survivor. Spitz is able to make it to the pallet, and I think we have another survivor up above who's also going to be harassing us, playing for a pickup, but 1 bound, 2. That'll be a second down here onto Pedro right now. Going for that insta pick right now is Rocket, but I think Spitz might just end up getting picked up here, as Rocket is going to be forced away a little too far. There is no flip-flop power struggle. That'll be Spitz on the shoulder of Grenout and securing this 3rd stage for Grenout and Umbrella.
Yeah, Pedro kind of playing in Grenout's face there, trying to deny the pickup for as long as possible, trying to let their teammate crawl to the pallet, maybe try and get a pallet save. That was kind of a last-ditch effort there to save that extra stage and end it in 2 stages. So I don't hate that play at all. It's kind of the only thing they can do there, right? But we do have 4 stages. We have officially won the match on the Umbrella side. So very good job to Greta. We are in chase instantly with Kexo here, and I think this might be a hit. Yeah, he's going to be taking that distance towards the main building. We do have the balance landing perk on the main if we do manage to make it inside, and he does miss those 2 dashes, but Kexo in the meantime does get zoned away from the main building, and I think this might be a down as a result. Yeah, very good zoning by Greta out here. We get the 2nd stage onto Kexo. I believe our painters was already used on him and gonna be taking that in the back main area. We do have quite a bit of progress on this gen. Rocket is working on it with Sprimpers, but Sprimpers not available quite yet. He will be getting pushed off of the generator as well. I don't think we have Pop available. I think, like we said earlier, it is replaced by Brutal Strength, so we'll be just applying Eruption by itself and playing for this survivor here. Rocket, I believe, still stuck at this this TL wall and playing around the window quite well. Doesn't get mind gamed. Maybe we'll get double dashed. Oh, he just okay. I mean, sure. He just goes right in between the dashes. They're gonna be playing around this, and our Sprint is 99. He makes that around and will be making some significant distance towards the main building. I don't even know what just happened, but Rocket did such a good job there avoiding the tag.
Yeah. Rocket just full ran into Grenoute's open arms and said, "This is not a hit. I will be getting away with absolute murder here." 1 dash. Are we just going to do it again? No, we will inevitably get thrown towards the edge map, and I don't think we're long for this world. We have this UL to be played, but just be a quick M1 here is that'll be Spitz almost popping that fortune. I think we are going to guarantee pop this. I don't know if we still have the Painter's token left on Rocket, so I'm unsure if Kexo is going to get the pop in time. It looks like Pedro playing quite aggressively here. Is we actually have multiple survivors here. This is also the gen that Kexo is working. Going to be 1 hit taken to try to deny this hook in general. Are we going to be able to get this? As that is a 2nd take, and now Kexo, our death hook survivor, he's going to allow Rocket to wiggle off the shoulder. That is going to be Champion of Light applied to Grenout once again here. And it looks like Grenout wants to commit on the Pedro, who's been playing in the face of them this whole entire trial, but instead it looks like going back to the gen, just going to play it safe, kick this. Blastmine going to be used, so buying all the survivors that were here a little bit more time to get away, but it's going to be Grenout now looking. Can we find one of our 3 injured survivors? Ideally, we are looking for Kexo, our death hook survivor, so we can force this into Oblivion. Looks like we spot multiple survivors top mid, and that'll be a grab on the Kexo, also slamming it into Rocket, forcing into the deep wounds. That'll be Kexo going back to the campfire, as now Rocket spits Pedro. We have 2 gens, about 50%, but almost all of them are injured here, Julia.
Yeah, and we have found the 2nd generator with the most progress, which is this double gen at Shack. Pedro is still cranking on that top side generator, but not before we get a very fast chase onto Spitz, our only healthy survivor. A little bit of point there, and we do double dash onto Spitz. This is very likely to be a hit. We do throw him edge map as well. I think that's Beetle value, sending him towards the edge map. I think he's dead. That's gonna be a down onto our Dustin, onto Spitz, and Pedro just moonwalking down the map with this incredibly stylish Jake. And yeah, that will be the game. We are in the end game now, where, I mean, we were kind of just trying to play for best result regardless, so Team Invictus definitely pulled through with those stages, and it's going to be getting a hook in the basement onto Spitz. If Spitz dies here, I believe that will be 8 stages for Fresh, which is still a pretty good result. And we do, okay, well, we do get Pedro regardless. I think he did moonwalk a little bit into the killer, which, you know, the game's already over, so it's all right here. And we are going to be opening the gate very far away from the basement. So Rocket very likely to be the survivor that escapes here. And after that, we will be going into the Freddy set.
Yeah, you know, there is the saying, you fly too close to the sun, you know, wax wings, but Pedro moonwalks a little too close to the shack, as that'll be 2 swift bounds to end Pedro's reign here. As Rocket, like you said, going to be the lone survivor to make it out of this trial. Our Claudette going back home safely, but it'll be 10 stages overall? Yes, 10 stages overall, as there's not really which team set here today. The sets were agreed upon, if I'm not mistaken, overall. So we are going to have to see how things turn out here. We know, obviously, Invictus is confident set, so is Umbrella. As Freddy coming up next, going to be just an interesting set of games for today. That's a very, I don't know, it's just a very interesting set to see how the killer players choose to take that one on Temple.
Yeah, Temple, we have that very, very large main building. However, the generator in the main isn't the safest. You can drop down on the survivor's head. There's 2 staircases. And if that gen isn't done, then there's a no god pallet available in the bottom. Of course, if the gen is done, the god pallet opens up. So definitely the main building, one of the less strong mains, I think, for survivors, though it is quite large. And the rest of the map, I mean, there's filler pallets, there's not too many tiles, there's only 2 tiles in the map total, and then the shack as well. I think definitely a little bit trickier for survivors sometimes, especially given that they aren't too familiar playing on it at all. But in the meantime, we are going to be looking at our replay here. This is the replay of the Wesker match, which very exciting match here. It was looking for a second at the beginning, like, I mean, maybe the survivors could have done it. There were some excellent plays. I think this is the moment where it kind of fell apart here, where Kexo playing around this does get hit through the pallet over at that edge map and tagged, kind of two-tapped a little bit. That did manage to send it away. We are taking a body block here in this replay, and this replay shows the body block just did not come through. Our Claudette just got slammed. Rocket got slammed against a rock here. Pedro dodged out a little bit too much, and it kind of blew up in their faces, right? That was the first stage needed to set the ball rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. It was going to be a difficult result nonetheless, but yeah, like you said, it was looking at the side of that like it was going to be very close. We'd already seen a couple chases have been left. We had seen a couple blast mines have. I think one blast mine had been eaten. So just buying more and more time, that's slowly mounting to more and more gem pressure with no stages coming through. But at the end, Grenaut was able to persist, was able to secure plenty of stages for this. As here we see multiple hit tanks come out, so Rocket can wiggle off the shoulder. Champion like going to be applied there, but yeah, at this point, the survivors were playing, I'd say, a little bit more altruistic than they normally would. I feel like most teams aren't going to opt to just take 2 hits like that, unless you're denying a pain res or something, but unless it ended up in another down. But yeah, going in now to Temple of Purgation. Do you think we're going to see a 3-gen be held by Freddy on this map here, Julia?
Possibly. There's definitely a lot more space on the bottom side than there is in the top in this map. The main building is a little bit closer to the top. We usually have quite a few gens over on the bottom, and then maybe a 2 or 3 gen over right above the main building, right? And then, of course, the main building gen is guaranteed. So we're going to have that as well. But that gen, like we said, just not as safe to do. I think if Freddy with his teleport power TPs to the main gen, you have 2 pallets that are incredibly unsafe next to you. They're essentially a guaranteed hit. I think I've almost never seen anybody win those pallets. It's possible, of course, but very unlikely. And Freddy, killer with some very high mobility, very much able to traverse across the map. So holding a 3-gen here is definitely possible, but I would not be surprised if he just relies on fast chases, fast downs, a fast tunnel out, and then playing in the 3v1 to the best of their ability, trying to interrupt resets, maybe trying to find stealthing survivors, and a 3-gen is possible, but I think there are definitely many avenues that we can use to win this game. Cyber.
I would absolutely have to agree. Another thing that's going to be very indicative of how they play is the build they end up going for. Now, we saw it affect a little bit in the Mastermind set, and that's Coal Tower, a relatively small map compared to the average of most. But Pedro didn't get the luck that they needed for the Scourge hooks with Pain Res. Temple is so much bigger. It is going to be way more difficult and a way more just full luck dependent to be able to secure those Pain Res hooks if you want to be slowing down those gens as much as possible. I would not be surprised in the slightest if we see agitation in play, as that'll help you a lot be able to traverse the map while carrying a survivor to secure whatever hook location you so choose. We also could see a more kick focus build. Like you said, Freddy has a lot of mobility rotating around this map. We have the pop. We can go to gens. We could pop goes the weasel. Then we could apply eruption. We can use Call of Brine, Dragon's Grip. A lot of these kick perks that are very commonly used. We have the Sloppy Butcher. We could play some chase perks, maybe like the Brutal Strength. This map doesn't have too many pallets, but we'll have to see what they end up going for here, Julia.
Yeah, we'll have to see for sure. I think typically Freddy played on Dead Dog Saloon and played on Coal Tower as well. We see that in other areas and sometimes in maybe this league in the future. But those maps tend to be there's very much palette dense map on Dead Dog Saloon. However, a lot of those palettes are a little bit more unsafe. They're filler palettes. Same with Coal Tower, but Coal Tower's strength in Freddy tends to come with a lot of pallets can be a very dangerous time in those tiles. If you put the pallets up on the right tile, like jungle gyms, maybe lightning tiles, or snake tiles, as they're sometimes called, those can be instantly very, very unsafe. The main building as well. If you drop that outside palette, the edge palette, it tends to be a little bit more of a death trap, and you can't really walk through the doorways sometimes with a palette blocking your way. Freddy just turns that map into a trap, essentially. Just very, very difficult to navigate around the tiles in the main building with all the fake pallets in play, and that is why he's very, very commonly played on Coal Tower. I wonder if we're going to see any more spots like that on this map. Of course, this map can spawn with jungle gyms in the two tiles. It can spawn with maze tiles, it can spawn with any of the tiles that Coal Tower has, essentially, but there's much fewer of them. So we're going to be seeing more play around the filler palettes, most likely, more play around the shack as well. And I mean, I just really think these chases are going to be shorter, to be honest, Cyber. I think that the chases on this map, despite Coal Tower and DDS, the lethality of them, it's still just going to be really, really hard, I think, for the survivors playing around the fillers. We're going to have to use as many fillers as possible to play around, but after that, our resources kind of limited, right? I mean, it could easily become a resource game in the upcoming trial.
Yeah, absolutely here. As there, like we said, this map is very big, which means there's a lot of space in between a lot of the stuff. So it's gonna be, I think, yeah, like exactly like you said, a war of attrition, more or less, where if you need to see how many pallets you get and how well you can use them. You need to play every pallet to its fullest potential. Obviously, you have the factors that the killer can apply, which is fake dream pallets around to try to hit you while you're wrapping around them. If you have double pallet spawns that don't get the other pallet, you could try to always set up there and play somewhat of a threat in that regard. You have your snares, which there's also a couple add-ons that affect both of these things. In regards to like jump rope, which gives you, I think, 11% more hinder. You could also have stuff to increase the range of your dream pallets hitting, which I'm pretty sure is unicorn block. Increase that by 1 meter. But yeah, it's going to be very intriguing to see how long that these pallets last. If that first chase is long, that's good and all. But did that use 50% of your resources on the map? Did that use your shack plus both your tiles? Did you even get good tiles? If you didn't get any jungle gyms and you're just stuck with window tiles, that Freddy could easily just snare you and you have to go for a medium vault because you're hindered on those. How quick are those chases going to be? Did you get any pain reses in those areas? So you even get your regression events, but we'll have to see as our wait is finally coming to an end here as we are loading into trial number 3, set number 2 of the Nightmare on Temple of Purgation. If I'm not mistaken, in lobby, I want to say it was Bubba Zaver who's going to be our Freddy. We talked a little bit about him in the pregame and his unique style to Freddy, at least on the Dead Dog Saloon. We'll see if any of that translates over today onto Temple, but we are in here, Julia.
Yeah, the roster here, Dan, Rocket, Pedro, and Spitz subbing out Kexo. Dan has hopped in this time, and we are starting off with Bubbo on the killer. Very proficient killer player here, going to be heading it down the map, and we do have essentially the same build, I think. Very heavy on the gen slowdown. I think I saw a brutal strength as well. If we flip back to their camera, yeah, brutal strength, pain res, eruption, and corrupt intervention. The exact same build that we had on the Wesker. And we are in chase instantly with Dan around the shack. We are still awake, so Dan can do a little bit more greeting here, but now that we are asleep, gonna have to play a little bit safer, and he doesn't have light or anything like that. We are gonna be playing around the shack. I mean, yeah, gonna be dropping that instantly as expected, and looks like we are gonna be maybe teleporting away, kind of thinking about teleporting. Light, by the way, is a banned perk. Sprint Burst is banned, so some fewer exhaustions allowed in this set now. I believe Bounce Landing is allowed here. But we are going to be heading, trying to find a faster chase. And it looks like we might have found a survivor kind of in a more unsafe area than before. He is playing around this topside filler, but he kind of gets zoned to this one filler that's very, very unsafe and going to be playing around it in the dream world, which will result in a tag. So heading bottom with our distance, we don't have too much on the exhaustion end to help us out in chase. Only head on, solo head on, I might add. And yeah, this main building, I mean, we have this window, but I'm not sure if this filler pallet is going to be strong enough to help us last.
Rocket just holding it nose. There's no time for them to make anything else right now. It looks like we are going to have a hit tank coming in as Pedro is here to try to support in some manner. And this is our Medal of Man survivor. So if we have this hit come in, this could be doom and despair here as we try to get through the survivor. And that was a fake dream pallet. Rocket, I think, may have panicked a little bit as Pedro got phased through. We used the snare to be able to break our collision for half a second, so Bubba was able to walk through that survivor and catch up back to Rocket. So that'll be our first down of this trial. And a hook on an active gen is going to be very, very good for our killer here. And now, I will say, we cannot see the add-ons, but we are playing the unicorn block for a little bit more range on the pallet explosions with our dream pallets. But we also are playing the jump rip for that little bit of hinder. Plus brutal strength. I think, yeah, we aren't going for the, I guess, more gen defensive style that we had talked about previous that Bubbo has played. We are going for full chase aggro here. We want these chases, and we want them short. Rocket on that first hook, still no one in sight. Looks like Pedro is going to be the second survivor in chase right now. As Pedro looks like kind of rotating towards the hook. This is a bit risky always to take that chase back towards the hook, as looks like actually we're going to be splitting away completely. We are just going to kind of let this go instead. Going to end up pushing towards Dan, but no. Back to hook we go as we incredibly cut off Pedro here. Going to be taking one hit. The hinder is going to be applied. As now, looks like this might just be a trade, which will get us one Medal of Man stack, but it will cost us our life, as that'll just be Pedro taking their turn on the hook here, Julia.
Yeah, just getting that trade, taking the pain res, I believe, on Spitz's gen, and instantly teleporting the Spitz's gen as well to stop that regression. So not too much gen progress here. It looks like the pain res stopped the highest progress gen, and it's now back at about 30%. So this tunnel out chase is underway. We are back on Rocket, and he's playing around this filler pallet, but this filler pallet looks like he doesn't have too many resources connecting to it after this, so he has to play around this quite well. He's going to be greeting it quite a bit, going to be dropping it now, but this is not crazy safe. He's going to be going down, and that will be the second down onto Rocket. I think we're just going to be well underway to getting our tunnel out of very good pace for our killer. And Pedro, we see, is about 50% out of gen. Never got healed up, but yeah, like you said, we do have Medal of Man available if we do get that heal, if we do get healed up to full, maybe take 2 more hits. But I mean, it's kind of hard to do on this map against Freddy. Freddy very much able to go through body blocks. We're in chase now with Dan. He's playing around another kind of unsafe filler. He just sends it away, actually, choosing not to play it at all, not risking the tag. And Pedro gets spotted. He's playing an Ormantile now, but this Ormantile is a little bit shorter on the pallet side than than we're typically used to, getting an excellent stun, sending it away. And I wonder if he has to go back to the hook. No, we're kind of baiting him a little bit, but still chooses to go back to our tunnel out, and that gen will very much likely pop. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that gen does pop at least. So we are going to be at least at 4 gens. And has Bubble lost his tunnel out, Cyber?
I think so, yeah. As we're looking around, we're checking the lockers now. It's going to be coming close. Does Bubbo have the Earthstus? We don't have the Armor. We don't have the Lucky Star. But it doesn't matter. Rocket, quiet enough, isn't going to be heard. This is a huge play by Invictus here to fully lose that tunnel out. Rocket going to be selling this out here. We're going to be back on Pedro, who does already have that pain res going to be used. We make it to a filler power. Is Bubble going to be swinging? No, he's not. Looks like maybe faking it with the Dream Snare. They were going for that lunge. 1 vault, 2, 3. Pedro winning these 50s, and now going to be popping that fog vial, maybe just trying to throw a little bit of deception at Bubbo, and it's working perfectly here as we're able to vault it 2 more times. Get the pallet break. That is the second gen popping right now as we send it towards this bottom side. This gen still is up, but no one on it right now, so we're not interrupting any survivors, as we are going to be teleporting back to the top corner of the map, and we're still just trying to find Rocket. Where has Rocket gone? If we can find that survivor or Claudette, this could force us into 3v1, but we are looking down the barrel of Ace. This is a fresh survivor, so we still do have the pain res on them. But it looks like now just back at this Orbital. I think we had broken this pallet before. That's going to be Bubbo vaulting over top of this. We are going to use our Dream Snare now. Not going for that medium vault. We're instead just going to accept the hit and take it towards a nearby filler. But is there even a filler remotely close enough? Going for the snare over top of the hill. Dan going to be able to avoid that. no exhaustion left, but is going to make it to this tile. We have Pedro here as well, so we have both survivors currently here as Dan just instantly dropping that pallet, wrapping around. We are injured, so we cannot use our finesse perk, but Bubbo zoning us away. Back towards the Ormond we go, as it looks like we are going to just choose to commit to this. We want to get that pain res. We want to start collecting our fresh hooks as we get a loud noise notification behind us. Going to be our 3rd gen popping, but we win the 50-50 on the window. That'll be a down. We see which gen is popped. It's that top side corner gen that we were holding onto before, but it looks like Rocket and Pedro have progress on 2 separate gens here, Julia, both about halfway.
Yeah, losing that tunnel out seemed to get so much pressure for the survivors. What a huge turning point in the match for Bubbo and for the Invictus team. And yeah, I mean, we're close to endgame now. I don't know if you saw the progress in these gens, but they're so high. Rocket's gen even did get pain resist, is only at 40%, back down to 40%, but still just so much progress in general. There was another gen I think that had quite a bit as well. We are in chase now with Pedro playing around this filler palette, and he's going to be instantly dropping it. We saw earlier his chase around this very similar filler palette was also excellent, and he will be most likely taking a hit, but no, he greets it. Gonna be vaulting again. He finally loses a 50-50, but an excellent job by Pedro. We do see a survivor in the wings waiting to perhaps get an instant unhook on their teammate, and I think that was Spitz there crouching over at the bottom side, and we do get a second stage onto Pedro, but I believe he was already pain res. So our only fresh survivor, Spitz, might have to start being careful sometime soon, given how close we are to endgame, how close we are on gen progress. Bubbo has to start worrying about stages.
Yeah, it looks like we are going to send the snare over towards Spitz, try to knock them into that dream mode. But it looks like we might not end up committing. Instead, just going to be kicking these gens, going around. We are going to end up eating a blast mine here, so we want to go for our brutal and eruption kick here. We are going to inevitably be able to get it, but not without the cost of the unhook and reset coming through onto Pedro right now. We spot Pedro, our Jake Park, rotating to the front of the main building, but looks like we're a little bit unsure if we want to commit to this. Yeah, we are, as it looks like we might have faked that we were going away. We are going to be dropping on that front main. We use our balance landing, but we still do end up taking a hit through it, as I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, Dan rotating through the main building alongside, where it looks like going to be using our teleport to try to cut off the survivor. Pedro going to be wrapping away. We do have a filler pallet to play here, but it looks like we also have a body block possibly coming in. This is going to be Rocket finally spotted once again, and wrapping around this. Looks like we are going to be using our snare to try to face through them here. Is M1 going to be taken onto the survivor right now? Who do we commit to? Do we want Rocket or do we want Pedro? They're both the same in terms of stages. Neither have a pain res left on them. It's just more or less which is the easier down for us. And Pedro looks like is the survivor we are going to choose right now. As playing 50-50s, Pedro has been so good at these pallets right now, wrapping around it. But that jump rope add-on with that hinder is so good. But Pedro is just the best 50-50s player out there. I think only lost one has vaulted these pallets like 10 times so far this trial, sending it away to the shack, and we don't even want anything to do anymore with them, Julia. We're leaving and going to look for another survivor.
Yeah, this isn't even Spitz either. This is Dan, who, to be fair, does mark 2 more stages, but there is Spitz. We have caught sight of our fresh survivor. Maybe want to commit onto him, or maybe looks like Bubbo actually trying to go for a 4K perhaps. Maybe try to down Rocket, try to down Pedro, and then get Spitz as well. It's a little bit ambitious, but I don't hate it. Yeah, Rocket knows the plan here. Gonna be forcing Locker. We do get Dan up in the meantime as well, and Dan going right back down, but not before wasting a little bit of Bubbo's time, so we are forced to take the hook here. I think getting an extra fresh is out of the question now. I think Spitz going to be playing a little bit too safe, especially with one of the gates open now. And the gate right behind Dan has 2 lights on, so that gate is also quite close on progress. I almost wonder if they're just going to leave our survivor here, if they're actually going to go for it. Pedro is 2 stacks away from Medal of Men, so very unlikely that that perk will come into play. But given they are healing up here, there's a good chance that they are actually trying to go for the pull.
Yeah, it looks like we are going to be switching positions here. Pedro going to be sending it closer to that unhook. I wonder if Pedro's going to send it for the door here. That's why they sent one survivor a little bit earlier than the rest. Is Pedro going to be wrapping now all the way to the door? I think if they can get this door open, it's almost a surefire 4 out here. Is the hook is just so close. We have Rocket here. It looks like we are going to be pushing that door. Unhook is going to end up coming through. Only 1 tag taken. Pedro and Dan, the 2 injured survivors. Dan has that base kit endurance. Faking the teleport. We no longer have that to our arsenal right now. It looks like we went for a bit of a reset under that hook. And now Rocket, who's going to be trying to body block, but we have the dream snare we can use to try to cut off and get through our survivor scene. It looks like exactly what we're going to be doing. As wrapping around this Orban tile is going to be our survivors. And we have 2 body blocks here. We have Rocket and we have Spitz, who's going to be sending it to that exit gate. And I think we're going to be able to get this 4 out. Fog Vial going to be used. Isn't really adding much in this moment, but M1 on Spitz going to be taken. And that is all the survivors making it out of the door. 6 stages, 3 fresh overall, Julia.
6 stages, I think, is an incredible result, considering how grim that game was looking at the beginning of the trial, right? We had 2 stages on Rocket super early. It didn't really look too great for the survivors at first, but Rocket with the excellent stealth play in the locker, Pedro winning so many 50-50s on multiple different palettes, by the way, which I think might have also been a result of him having Vigil, which kind of negates the effects of Freddy's snares a little bit. I wonder how much that helped him there. But yeah, Vigil is one of the perks that affects killer powers directly. Very unfortunate for the Freddy killer. Definitely was interesting to watch, and Pedro himself just excellently played, just very, very keen on the 50s, winning it over and over and over again. And like you said, he only lost a single 50 within the span of minutes. So just excellently played by multiple survivors. Dan and Spitz as well, just played so well, and Spitz didn't really get chased, did a good job of staying out of the way when he needed to, but also so much end progress by the survivors once that tunnel out had come through. And there is the moment here when he dropped the fake pallet on Freddy. That is the first down on Rocket. The body block, of course, a little bit more difficult for Freddy, or for the survivors to play against Freddy with body blocks here, because he can just go right through the survivor with his power. Using a snare through a survivor, it's like the survivor is invisible, or intangible rather, and getting those 2 downs pretty fast onto Rocket is what I think made the game look up so much in the first place. But here is the moment where we lost him. I'm honestly shocked he didn't hear him in the edge map.
Yeah, Claudette's a pretty quiet survivor, not the quietest we have, but there is no Iron Will, there is no Lucky Star comboed with this head-on. This is just Rocket injured in a locker. Bubbo didn't quite have the ears. Freddy does have a decent bit of ambient noise from the killer perspective, but I mean, it must have been too much there. Bubbo's going to be looking back at that one. Where did Rocket go? That was 100% the turning point in this. Because look, we are still at 5 gens and Rocket is in the locker. We end up popping 1 gen, so we're only at 4. But if we just hear Rocket's in this locker, even if we eat the head on and have a chase, or we just get grabbed, that is a hugely different trial for the remaining there. 3v1, we have 1 survivor injured. We still have pain reses in play. There's not too much gen progress on other generators. That is just a completely different game there.
And I need to jump in real quick here and also just put this clip to max volume once again. I'm gonna let this play because
be at least at 4 gens. And has Bubble lost the tunnel outside?
Bubble didn't hear him. He walks past him right now.
So yeah,
about to get the audio.
We're looking around, we're checking the lockers now. It's gonna be coming close. Does Bubbo have the?
It's very evident, as you guys already pointed out. No Lucky Star, but it doesn't matter. No Iron Will. So I'm confused how he didn't hear this.
There's
It's gotta just be Freddy's ambient noise. You know, maybe someone's talking. We obviously can't hear the VC. Maybe someone's giving insight that Rocket might have gone edge map or something. We don't know. They obviously don't know that he's gonna hop into a locker. We don't know that Rocket is head on in that moment. But even still, head on wasn't comboed with anything. That was just full hoping on the stealth. And then yeah, that plus, I mean, this is another one of those times. Pedro is historically one of the best 1v1 players we have in this game. And just winning these 50-50s, Bubbo just could not catch a break at these fillers. These aren't the strongest fillers. I think you had said it, Julia. Very mind gameable by the killer. But Pedro is just persistent. Is just... I don't even know what words you can put together to describe how much survival Pedro has in these moments.
Yeah. I mean, I did mention Vigil, but he's awake in these clips, so Vigil wouldn't have really mattered here. Just basically 0 power from the Freddy available. Being awake gives you essentially invincibility to a Freddy power. You're just playing as an M1 killer. That's all that is, just straight up 50-50s. And like you said, Pedro, with years and years of 1v1 experience under his belt. Of course, 50-50s, I mean, they're still 50s at the end of the day. You still just win them or lose them. And Pedro seemed to win them all. But yeah, very, very impressive results. 6 stages is, I think that's pretty hard for this Survivor team on this map. And like we said earlier, Umbrella is one of the best Survivor teams in the world. I wouldn't put it past them, to be honest. This is definitely possible. It's a lot more doable than a two-stage win con on Wesker Cold Tower, that's for sure. And Invictus even was looking like they were coming close for a second, so not out of the realm of possibility here. We'll have to see, but I would not be surprised if this goes to Tiebreaker, which is the Spirit Killer on Mother's Dwelling.
Yeah, absolutely. Here is once again, yeah, these body blocks is just at the end. We talked about a little bit the Umbrella Survivor side of just having such good understanding. This is as well just another very good understanding of how we're going to wrap around this tile. We have Spitz, we have Rocket, we have two people playing to support this, as well as, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but we do see in that moment right there in that clip, Rocket purposely stays back. Spitz stays on top of the injured survivor, while Rocket purposely stays back. So if we go through the phase through and try to use our snare to cut off Rocket, we still have Spitz there. So they're making sure to keep their distance relative to each other here, as Dan is able to get out of this trial scot-free. I think Pedro is the one just in the exit gate, waiting for the teammates to follow in tow, and exactly they do, dropping the fog vial as well. But nonetheless, we are loading into trial number 4. I didn't quite see who it was on the killer side of Invictus, but we'll have to see. It'll probably, I think this is a Nightlight killer if I'm not 100% sure. Yes, I think it is, as I can see now. But we are going in Nightlight. I don't know if I've seen Nightlight play Freddy here, Julia. Have you seen Nightlight with any experience on Freddy?
A little bit. It's definitely a set that Invictus is not uncomfortable with in the slightest. I've seen them play it a few times, but it tends to be Nightlight. Sometimes I think I've seen Pedro play it every once in a while, but usually Nightlight, I want to say. And yeah, we are loading into the match, the exact same build this time as we had in the previous trial. This is or at least for the Invictus killer, they don't have brutal strength like Umbrella did, but they had what Pedro did in the Wesker set at least. And we are heading down the map, instantly find a survivor here, wrapping around the hill. And looks like we kind of path back towards this tile here, double backing on the hill, making it back towards safety. And that maze tile is a little bit dangerous, it looks like, because there is a fake pallet right in the middle of it. If we time the fake pallet perfectly, could be disastrous. But Nightlight does not want to commit, going to be poking a little bit at different survivors, trying to find a good chase, and it looks like we did also get the main god pallet spawn, which could be handy later. We'll have to keep that in mind. And we are chasing the magic here now at this tile. That could have been a hit. Oh my goodness, no, it is a hit actually. He was trying to dodge out from the fake pallet, trying not to get injured by the fake pallet, and took an M1 for it. Which is the power of Freddy here. And is that a 2-tap? No, he doesn't swing for it, doesn't connect, and is going to be playing the shack, and does get the shack pallet drop. An excellent stun. That was a very ambitious mind game by Nightlight. Didn't quite pull through, but I respect the heck out of that. He will be committing on to our survivor here. We only have a pallet gem, and then I think we are out of resources after that, except for a head-on here, Cyber. Head-on coming through, I believe. That is Grenout, and gonna be committing onto our injured survivor, who did send it down towards the bottom side, I believe.
Yeah, but this is our lucky break survivor plus the fog vial, so a little bit of assistance we're gonna have there to try to lose this, as the fog vial gonna end up maybe harming us a little bit to see where the killer is coming on check, but nonetheless we do make it to another filler pallet. The Magic gonna be dropping that one, wrapping this one more time. Are we gonna win these 50-50s? Are we gonna be putting on our best Pedro impression? Looks like one 50-50 gonna be lost, but the second one is gonna pan out for Nightlight. That'll be our first down. I guess wasn't really even a down, it was just immediately on the shoulder of Nightlight of the trial here. Is, like you said, it's the same build we had in the Wesker game for Invictus. We have the full regression build. We have Pain Res, we have Pop Goes the Weasel, we have Eruption. As we do see that first gen pop, we had a Pain Res already come through. It looks like we're actually just going to end up walking this down here. Going to be pushing Grenout off this gen, using our Pop Goes the Weasel and Eruption combo to kick this gen. Now, one thing I would like to point out, we do have a difference in add-ons as well. As we didn't even go for the full chase add-ons as well, we do have the Unicorn block for the little bit of range on the fake pallet explosions, but we also have Pill Bottle to put survivors back asleep. So they will fall asleep sooner and sooner as the trial goes on and they continue to wake themselves up. But we are going to have this unhook come through onto La Magic, dropping that back god main pallet. And we are going to be using that fog vial here, camping this pallet now. Going to be dropping this one as looks like we might not even want to commit to this here. As that second gen does pop, every survivor other than Lamagic is fully awake. Use those clocks around the map, and Granout's going to be the survivor we end up committing to here, playing around the Z-Wall very well, buying a lot of time here. Is we are going to make it back to the filler pallet near the gen. Is Granout now playing these 50-50s? Who is going to win that one, actually? Granout is buying so much time here, chaining that Z-Wall to this filler, as Nightlight doesn't want to break this, is getting a little bit persistent, but Granout eventually is going to lose one, is going to take that tag. Now, if we do leave this survivor, we have the inner healing up, so we have a way to self-reset up very soon. But a good teleport is going to cut off perfectly there, as now this will be the pickup. Our second stage overall onto Granout here, as we only need, I think, 5 more, Julie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we need 5 more to get the 7 stages. We could also get 6, 4. That's an option. I think we only got 3 fresh in the previous trial. And yeah, that chase by Granout was kind of impressive. He lasted much longer than he should have on a Z-Wall and a connecting filler that really was not all that safe. Just winning 50s once again. And I mean, the second stage does come through. I think Nightlight, with an excellent mind game, honestly, using the gen to cut off Granout, kind of mind gaming him and making him drop the pallet, greed the pallet, just expected Nightlight maybe to cancel or something, but did it result in a down. Just excellent Freddy play. I love seeing the mid-chase gen teleports come through and work on the survivors. And we do see some scratch marks over here at the top left side of the map. Or no, excuse me, this is bottom. We are going to be chasing Lamagic once again. This is a survivor that has already been hooked, but this may style not the safest thing in the world. I think he is awake though, so it doesn't matter too much, but this does put him in the dream world, so we do have to respect this second fake pallet that I think Lamagic did path towards it, expecting it to be real, and this main building pallet never got kicked, by the way. We do have the God pallet still available, going to be using our Fog Vial once again, maybe trying to slip up Nightlight a little bit. I mean, of course, Lucky Break has already run out. That would have been huge if Lamagic still had Lucky Break available. And we do make it all the way to the Shack, I believe, but the Shack gen is the teleport spot here. We do double back in time, winning that 50, but we will go down. There's no connecting fillers nearby, so that will be a second stage onto Lamagic, but I can see that there is quite a bit of progress on Granout's Shen, and quite a bit of progress on Hardwell's Shen as well, so we are almost at 1 generator. This hook, though, very unfortunately, is next to the highest progress gen, so very good on Nightlight to hook there. But, I mean, this is technically still winnable for our Umbrella survivors. I wouldn't put it past them, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely not. This gen is at least 50% now after the pop and eruption. We have some gens far that we also can work. It looks like Hardwell is playing quite aggressively towards this hook. It's going to end up eating a snare, wrapping around this hill. Do we make the window? Looks like no, we do not, but we are going to end up eating this M1 as Lamagic comes off the hook. Do we end up going back or do we commit to Hardwell? Looks like we want to commit onto Hardwell. This is a fresh survivor, so we still do have a pain res left on them. Going for the snare here around the main building. Looks like going to go in for a teleport, maybe to cut off here. And it looks like we ended up faking that, not wanting to commit onto this. We dropped the firecracker. Going to be dropping a fake pallet there. Now, playing around this now. But a good mind game by Nightlight is going to pan out perfectly in his favor here as we see the eruption explosion, the aura of those survivors on that bottom side gen. And now we have another pain risk coming. We see our Scourge hook, and we're beelining straight for it, trying to make sure that bottom side gen that we just kicked earlier does not pop. And it looks like we're not going to stick it, but I think we are going to make it to a hook just in time here. Yep, F-Gen eats another regression event and teleporting immediately to it. Nightlight wants to come back, wants to keep tabs on the progress these survivors have. And this is our 4th stage overall, going for a pop of the pallet. Looks like now we are going to be forced to wrap around the Shack. This James Granout is going to already have a pain risk used on them. We have our pop goes the weasel up if we choose to leave, but looks like Nightlight just wants to commit, wants to just try to rack up these stages as fast as possible.
When a swing and a miss on that pallet, and we are going to be breaking it, just zoning Granout towards the edge map, but I'm a little bit scared of Granout with the seawall, to be honest, at this point. We do take a hit, though. Going to be sending it towards the top side. I believe there is still a pallet dead center of the top side, so this resources game looking a little bit tricky, but there are still a few pallets left on the map, and the survivors have been pathing directly towards them every time. Very much aware of what resources that we have remaining. Gonna be actually leaving Granout. I think Swatter has to play a little bit carefully right now. He is the last fresh survivor, and I think that actually might be him in the distance now. We are chasing him. Yeah, gonna be getting our last fresh chase here, and I mean, Swatter kind of has to play a little bit carefully. 6-4 would be a win for them. He does take a tag through this pallet, making quite a bit of distance, but Freddy very definitely able to catch up, especially if we have a gen in the middle, maybe to teleport to, but Nightlight doesn't seem to want to cut him off. He wants to keep this generator bottom side. We are at 1 gen remaining, so kind of looking a little bit close here for Nightlight on the 3 gen, and we are in chase with our fresh, of course, but I mean, I'm sure that the other survivors are going to be taking good care of him, playing for altruism here. He definitely wants this fresh though, Cyber. He wants to get this win con, and this is the best path towards that.
Yeah, and these fake pallets here are going to perfectly zone, as we're going to be forced to run through one, put us to sleep. It wasn't enough. We weren't already asleep to be able to put us onto the floor, but that'll be Eruption in our last Pamres, presumably. I think we have a Scorch Hook we can reach. We're doubling that gen that we've already put so many kicks into in this trial. We're walking into the mid-map. I think this is a Pamres hook, if I am not mistaken. As it looks like we have a survivor playing very close. Yes, it was our final Pamres. This is 5-4 gained. So just one more stage on absolutely anybody is the win for Nightlight here. Contrary though, the survivors cannot give up another stage. Doesn't matter who it is. And it looks like LaMagic, our already injured survivor, is going to be what Nightlight wants to commit to. We're already using teleport on that gen, and it is going to cut off perfectly. LaMagic, meeting their maker, is going to end up on the floor and on the shoulder of Nightlight. This will be going back to the campfire, and enough stages overall to secure it. Invictus taking set number 2 and forcing us to that tiebreaker Spirit Mother Swelling set.
Yeah, that is going to be the win, like you said, but very close for our survivors. We do still have a little bit of a 3-gen bottom side. It's not crazy bad. They're a little bit spread apart, but they're all still bottom, and we do have a very distinct lack of resources down here. Many fake pallets, many very large dead zones, and this Shack gen has a little bit of progress, but going to be getting an eruption kick on it, chasing. I think this is Gren out here over at the Shack, just choosing to go back to the other generator, maybe committing him for a little bit. But I mean, the Shack is one of the last pieces of safety here that we have in this map, and he gets a little bit mind gamed on the Shack there. Doesn't really see Nightlight coming around the corner. Going to be sending it up the map, and Nightlight, now that he has 2 injuries on the board, going to be chasing his 3rd healthy survivor. Hardwell playing 50s here on the last remaining pallet in this area. I think there's also a pallet at the maze tile, but that seemed to work on Hardwell, getting an excellent mind game with a double back there. Nightlight getting a tag, and now everyone. I mean, this is looking. I mean, do you think they can 4K win this year, Cyber? This kind of looks a little bit rough here, especially with 2 injuries and Gren out now in chase.
I don't know. I mean, to be fair, we did get the reset onto Gren out here due to our inner healing, so we do have 1 health state left. But it looks like Nightlight is playing safe. A 4K, it looks imminent, right? Like, you're slowly running out of pallets. I think they have a couple more drop pallets that Nightlight hasn't quite broken yet, but looks like we are going to end up finding one of these as Hardwell. Going to be greeting it, so Nightlight missing that swing right now. Wrapping around 1 vault. Are we going to go for the second? No, we're not. Hardwell winning the 50-50s on this tree. Just waiting, watching, holding somewhat of a check spot. You can play on this. Not going to be quite connecting onto that snare, so getting a full wrap of this. Is now vaulting over 1 more time. Nightlight just playing the TP fakes. I will say, Julia, that has been the core differences in chase from these 2 killers. I don't know if I saw Bubbo go for many TP fakes at all. Nightlight is spamming them off cooldown in this game. We've seen so many Nightlight just holding the TP and threatening the 50-50 on if we're going to commit to the full TP animation or not. But it looks like Swatter also ending up on the ground there. Head-on attempted by Grenout, and yeah, this is going to be lights out of this trial. This is a 4K1 for Nightlight on the Freddy killer. So this will be, it looks like we're just going to kick this gen just to ensure no wiggle off and they pop a gen. Adrenaline shenaniganry is going to happen, as this will just be picking up our slugs and making sure they all end up on the hook.
Yeah, shenaniganery's gotta be the word of the day there. That's a crazy word. We do get everyone down in the 4K1. It was looking like it could have maybe hit the Tiger on at least there for a second though, but I think maybe 1 or 2 tags coming through when they shouldn't have, maybe 1 or 2 mind games. We saw some excellent double backs by Nightlight, some great gen cutoffs. Like you said, that is the primary difference between Nightlight and Bubbo's gameplay here. Or at least their mechanical gameplay. We saw so many gen cutoffs work, actually. That is kind of a 50-50, even though it's kind of it's a bit of a stranger 50-50, but it definitely is more of a lose for the survivors, I think. And we do get our last hook onto Hardwell here, going to be wrapping up the trial, so excellent job to Nightlight. This is a phenomenal Freddy performance, and it was honestly looking pretty phenomenal for the survivors at first too, but yeah, that will be us going into the spirit set on Mother's Dwelling as well, which is going to be interesting, I think.
Yeah, Mother's Dwelling is definitely an outlier. It's a map that hasn't been seen in comp in, I want to say, 6 years, probably? The last time I saw Mother's Dwelling was when it was Nurse's main map back in old comp, when Nurse still had 2 to 3 blinks, I'm pretty sure. And you wanted to give her the biggest map possible. So that is why you would want to put Nurse on it. Nowadays, the map's become much smaller ever since the maps were reworked a couple... Yeah, by now, it's a year or 2 ago, even. And, yeah, it's much smaller, so I'm curious to see with Spirit now. Spirit, the reason why this is one of the maps that we have Spirit on is because it's one of the few maps where the footsteps are a bit louder than average. So, let's use Coal Tower or any Macmillan map as our benchmark, and then you compare it with Pale Rose or that realm in general, the Swamp maps, the Mother's Dwelling, or even Ormond. They're slightly louder on those maps, and that's exactly why these maps are selected for Spirit's Pool. And one, you can hear the snow crunching. On Mother's Dwelling, you'll be able to hear a bit of these damp noises as you're walking through this swampy terrain, I want to say. And on Pale Rose, yeah, kind of similar. So the maps are wet due to the climate that they are supposed to be located in, and that's just supposed to help Spirit a little bit. But yeah, let us also head on over to the replays, because there's as you guys have already pointed out thoroughly with the main difference that you pointed out was in these chases, Nightlight was so aggressive with these teleports and used them mid-chase constantly, and we have so many great moments from this happening as well. But let us have a quick look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, getting this, this is, I think, the second stage onto the Magic that you're looking at now. We saw quite a few stages come through at the very beginning, but then there was kind of a lull in the middle of the game. Survivors getting quite a bit of gen progress. This is a chase at the Shack. We are going to be looking at, I mean, this Shack gen was so high on progress for so long. I'm honestly shocked it didn't pop, but I think Eruption and Pop keeping that generator at bay there for so long, and this is the moment. I think Greta looking away from the entryway at the perfectly wrong time. So that will be the instance that we got the extra tag onto him. And it was just a couple too many tags like that coming through on Mind Games, coming through on hiding red stains. Here's another one now. We got him on Hardwell, I believe that is the survivor there. And yeah, Nightlight just kind of doing that every once in a while, just a little bit too many times. And I think that might have been what got him that extra stage at the end. I think maybe if those extra tags hadn't come through at all, it would have been very, very possible for our Umbrella survivors to get the 6th stage. But I mean, it happens. It is a little bit of a less visibility killer, very easy to mind game and get mind gamed on this killer in particular. And Nightlight did an excellent job at utilizing his kit in particular to get those extra tags, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's just playing around it. This is where Nightlight is one of the most. I would argue you could even probably say the most experienced killer. Nightlight's been at the top of this game for so long in comp, dating all the way back to those Agony days, 5 or plus years ago. Mathis, you might correct me on that. I don't know how long ago Agony started and was winning those tournaments, but Agony's been at the Agony way back then was at the top, and he still is at the top here with Invictus. Just having that understanding of playing around the M1 movement, just the idea of what survivors want to do and how to best counterplay it with any killer.
And now that you've already asked the question with regards to Agony, it's Nightlight's had probably, I mean, he does have the most decorated career in comp DBD. He's been around since, okay, that's even before my time on. But I did start in 2016, but obviously until I got into comp, it took a couple of years. Nightlight's OG, and that means comp before comp. 2018, 1v1 events, you'll see Nightlight. Go to his YouTube channel, either select the on the filtering at the top, oldest first, and you'll see 1v1 events, one of his first videos ever. Yeah, even before Agony, I remember teams like Legacy, I remember other teams around like Quantum, even though I don't think that's one of his teams. And then, yeah, ultimately ended up on Agony that had one of the first longest reigns besides Oracle. We all, or most of us remember Best of the Best in 2020, that Agony ended up winning with Fingerguns as the killer and Nightlight as the captain, as he's captained most of the teams that he's been on. Just, yeah, he's an ancient player who's still active and, yeah, the most successful player in the history of this game, most likely only rivaled by, if even, you know. So it's just awesome to still see him around.
Yeah, we are going to be loading into the final tiebreaker here. We have Spirit on Mother's Dwelling. Just to reiterate, I believe Pedro is the one on the killer here for Team Invictus. So, gonna be fun. I haven't seen Pedro play Spirit on this map ever, so we're gonna have to see something there. And look at this build, Cyber. This is a bit of an interesting one. We have Devour, Hope, Ruin, Undying. So maybe with the larger map here, hoping to get some Devour stacks, and Pedro instantly phasing towards his totem, towards one of his totems, seeing a survivor at the shack who has, I think they did go into the shack, so no doubt has seen that totem, but he's going to be leaving. And this is the problem with totem builds, especially without thrill or anything like that. The totem has been cleansed instantly, and I think another one might come soon, but we get a tag onto La Magic, who is playing our Robin survivor, very, very quiet survivor here, and he makes a lot of distance towards the shack. I think very likely to be another survivor in the shack cleansing that totem right now, so he's going to be playing around this filler palette. I don't think he would have made it to the shack palette, but getting the down. Very excellent phase by Pedro to get our first down here and our first hook of the trial.
Yeah, absolutely here. And just to point out, like you said, the build, definitely unique, has its downfalls in some moments, but I don't hate it whatsoever. Going full totem on such a large scale map, you don't have to worry about picking those gens. You could let the Ruin passively do it for you. All you have to worry about is finding survivors and just chasing them. The Ruin will regress those gens. The Devour is there if you end up, if they don't cleanse your totems, you could have that exposed. Maybe the Mori in the long of it, but we'll have to see if the survivors end up playing that aggressively for the totems. Looks like we're instead just going to be fully confident in sitting here. We see the gen. Looks like we might have a bit of a restart. We'll be back in a second here. We'll hopefully
Tommy skin.
Figure out what is... Tommy skin as a banned skin. Is that going to be a penalty, Mathis, for the side of Invictus there?
Yes, it is, because it was caused by the killer. Gotcha. So, if a restart is forced, then that will also be a penalty, unfortunately. So, that is going to be Team Invictus starting on -0.5.
Not the start you want to have, but I will say, especially punishing. Obviously, the penalty is awful, and you don't want to ever take penalties in comp, but I think the real downfall here for the side of Invictus is going to be Umbrella has knowledge now. You are playing totems. Umbrella now can load into the trial and rotate around looking for totems. We might see now, if the totems are found super early, that come into play huge here, Julia's. We'll be tipped off into aware of what we're looking for as we're finding gens.
Yeah, I even said it in the previous trial. I'm honestly very surprised that the survivor who went close to the shack didn't cleanse the shack totem instantly. It was honestly looking like Pedro's 2 totems would have been gone very, very early in the trial, but we got a pretty fast down onto La Magic to make up for it. Landed 2 excellent phases. Pedro, no doubt, very expert on this killer, and I'm expecting to see it once again. We were playing around quite a few unsafe filler palettes. I believe it was Robin, it was La Magic in the previous trial, and he also went to the basement. So, I mean, could have been a great start for Pedro, could have been an awful start if his 3rd totem and 2nd totem had gotten found. Really not a good way to know, but we'll have to see it again. Maybe we'll get a fast chase once again. Pedro going to be using part of his phase to go into the middle of the map. and looking around for survivors. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of rough. Instantly, we're seeing Gren cleansing a totem, and that totem will be gone in the first 2 seconds of the match.
Yeah, and that allows us to get our inner healing plus our overzealous active right now to have that ability to be able to play around these chases. Looks like phasing on the back of Gren here, but is going to be able to make it to the main building pallet. But Pedro looks like just going to cut the losses and leave. We don't want anything left to do. We are going to end up, I think, spotting Lamagic, our Robin, towards the shack here. And I think that also is another survivor, but we'll end up seeing who Pedro ends up committing to here. Is we are going to be phasing here through this pallet right now. Can we find the survivor walking around this? And looks like we did hear that Lamagic had stayed. And look, Grenau is already on a second totem. We are immediately getting rid of these as fast as possible. There goes Undying. There goes Ruin. As we just have Devour left in our arsenal here. It's wrapping around this building here. Are we going to be able to win this? Is that'll be a vault over the window here. Buying a lot of time, as this is not the start you need if you're Pedro to be able to get this early game momentum coming through. As now we just really have Pain Res as our only regression left. And like we also said before, this is a huge, huge map. We'll have to see how the Pain Reses end up panning out for Pedro.
Yeah, and getting a stun here, Swatter with an excellent stun onto Pedro, so an even worse start. It looks like a gen is going to pop before he's really committed a chase quite yet. Lamagic and Greno are stacking a generator somewhere on the map. Pedro going to be going to investigate it, but it pops in his face before he can even get to it. I think this could be a tag. He does have enough phase for it, but gets a little bit juked on the doorway of the shack, so this survivor getting away scot-free without a tag. Pedro going to be trying to phase once again onto the survivor. He really needs a tag. He needs to make something happen here. But these survivors have scattered. They're very, very far away. Maybe a little bit of a misclick by Pedro's part, but he's heading towards the top side looking for this generator, which has a ton of progress. And now Pedro only has one perk remaining in the trial. All three of his totems have been cleansed, I'm pretty sure, unless Devour is still active, which I don't believe so. And doesn't even get that hit onto Shane there. Hardwell doing an excellent job dodging out on that phase, and will be playing the top side. This pallet here, just so many filler pallets on Mother's Dwelling, in contrast to the previous map on this exact same realm. And he might have gotten stuck here, but no, Pedro didn't body block the pallet with his husk properly, and Hardwell makes it quite a bit of way down the map. He used quite a bit of phase there to get that hit, and will be making it at least to the shack pallet for now.
Yeah, this would be a very good first down here. So it looks like Pedro going to be utilizing the basement to try to mind game what side of the pallet we're on, but Hardwell is well aware of that. So that'll be shack pallet already going to be burned here. So wrapping back to that window. It looks like our do have our second, third, and fourth gen cranking here. Is a double back going to be used, but to no avail. As that'll be Pedro getting our first down of the trial. Second gen does pop. We do have a Painress hook pretty close by, and Pedro is making a beeline for it. I think that will be able to interrupt Swatter's gen, but there still just is so much progress amounting here. As yeah, Swatter's going to be eating that regression here. We have our sprint burst. We'll see, does Pedro make it to any of the gens? Even if we do, what is that really gaining for us right now? Is we don't have any eruption, we don't have any pop goes the weasel, no Colubrine, no dragon script, no nothing. It is just pain res left for us as we find all these gens. But yeah, we don't even elect to kick that. We just want to go and commit to Swatter. We want to get a second down, want to just try to collect these stages as fast as possible right now.
Yeah, that heal on Hardwell coming through with, I think maybe we'll make it, maybe some other healing perk, but that was a very fast heal onto our, theoretically, our tunnel out survivor. I'm not sure if Pedro is tunneling, but it looks like he actually is. I'm a little bit surprised. We are at one gen with a lot of progress. I think he has to drop this here, and yeah, he does realize this gen will pop if he commits to Hardwell. Very unfortunate he cannot go for a tunnel out this game, but he is able to interrupt the gen, which is an upside here. We do have a chase onto Swatter, drops it on the correct side. Pedro, yeah, I mean, he really needs to make something happen here. Hardwell, our only injured survivor, but also our only hooked survivor, so we really need to find maybe someone lacking. I don't know, but these survivors are just playing so well, playing their distance, playing their exhaustions, and even another exhaustion coming through. That's a sprint burst from Swatter. It just seems like he just can't make anything happen. This map is too large. This 3-gen, there's a main building gen, which, though it is a little bit closer to the other generators, you have to go all the way upstairs to stop it. And balance landing is a perk in play. We do get an excellent phase onto Lamagic and a tag, and I wonder, Pedro, I think he just has to commit to this. We don't have the gen regression to hold this gen spread. We don't have really anything. Yeah, like you said, it's eruption. It's no pop or anything like that. So we are going to be just forcing basement locker. and that will be the last couple of gens, very likely popping, and a basement hook as well.
We'll have to see what the Swabbers end up going for here. Is forcing basement definitely a smart play. We know that Pedro has pain res, so forcing basement ensures that we are not going to make any scourge hooks nearby to ensure we get no regression assistance from our final perk, but looks like we're just going to full leave this. I was going to say, do you think we're just going to leave Lamagic on hook and just take our 3 out, but doesn't seem like it is. Instead, we're going to be pushing out, looking for a Swabber here. Unhook is going to end up coming through. Swatters the mean to want to grab it. As now Pedro making a beeline back. He's going to end up coming out of the shack. It looks like Lamagic. Swatter wanted to double back down the stairs a little bit here to maybe try to avoid that. But we have our face back immediately. Pedro in tow. Are we going to be able to get this mind game here? Playing around this filler palette is going to pan out in Swatter's favor. Or sorry, in Pedro's favor against Swatter. That'll be a 3rd down of this trial. No pallet save coming in. No one's stepping nearby. But looks like we're going to try to be making another beeline straight for that basement. We see Gren out already about to pop a door. Are we just going to leave this is the question. Do we think we can get this Swabber out of the trial? Looks like we are 99ing, which makes me believe that we're going to try to come in for this unhook. But oh my, Julia, look at how far those Hexagates are from the basement.
Yeah, across the entire map, it seems like this hook position is nearly impossible for our survivors to get against the Spirit, unless Pedro misses a phase or two. But yeah, no, it looks like they are just choosing to take their 5 stage. I mean, 5 stages, Pedro brought it back a little bit at the end there, getting a quick hook, and then getting another hook in the basement, just getting those extra 4 stages after our original tunnel out had taken 1. But yeah, that first bit of gens, I mean, there was no pressure for Pedro there for quite a while, right? There was no hits coming through, there was no chases to be had. All of our totems got cleansed. It seemed like the survivors had a ton of gen progress. Really just couldn't do anything, it felt like, from the killer POV, and he missed a couple of phases as well. I think it was our ace player at the top side of the map who just had such a good chase, managed to make it towards the main building without a tag or anything like that. Just excellently played overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Here is that bottom forest locker is always so impactful. Here is the unfortunate forest survivors here. I think they wanted to try to get that last stage up, but the doors were just too far at the end of the day, as Swatter ends up sending it to that basement on hook just to get it. But I think they wanted to hopefully have Lamagic take that hit for them, but it ended up not panning out as Del backing down the stairs ended up being somewhat of a self-sabotage there by their team. But nonetheless, tried to make as much distance away. Maybe if you get away from the basement, you still could get the resets and still come in to try to go for that unhook, but doesn't make it too far. Is stuck at this filler pallet and will end up going down there. But I'm intrigued to see, the Hexstone build wasn't one I was expecting coming into this trial. I will say, we did also see Talisman come into play, something we briefly touched on as well in the pre-show. Pedro's normal preference towards it. I don't know if I'd say it was better or worse on this map. The traversing the map, I feel like it was about the same. We definitely saw Pedro, at least before the restart and the penalty was applied, definitely had that patience that we're normally confident in them seeing, where he'll mind game around this and just fully watch and look for or listen very closely for those locations of the survivors and punish it. But it seemed like as that after the restart had happened, a little bit more panic was coming in, a little bit less patience, and the survivors definitely were taking advantage in those moments.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, 5 stages though, Cyber. Do you think that's doable? I think on this map it's definitely doable. Maybe we have to play for pallet saves. We have to try to avoid the basement, of course. That is what got Pedro those extra couple of stages in the end. Definitely looked up for him a little bit in the endgame. But really a lot of the Spirit's pressure just comes from, can they hit those first couple of phases? We saw before the restart, we got a pretty fast down onto Robin. Getting a quick phase that landed perfectly, a second phase that landed perfectly, and getting a basement hook as well. It was looking so much better in that first trial. So very unfortunate for Pedro. But I mean, that Survivor gameplay in the second trial was just excellently. They were playing so well, playing their distance, dodging out the phases, walking at the perfect time, making filler pallets, and taking their distance using their exhaustion perks as well. Pedro just couldn't find anything. And like you said at the beginning of the previous trial, there was knowledge that we had the hex totems, right? Given the restart, we knew we had Devour, Ruin, and Undying. So just having that knowledge, able to look for the totems right off the bat without any hesitation, just basically lost Pedro a lot of pressure in the perk category, at least.
I'd have to agree there. Obviously, like I said, the penalty, it does suck. You know, you should have been reading the rules. Don't bring the Tomy skin in those moments, but yeah, the knowledge really was the nail in the coffin for me because it was before a hook had even happened. We had lost all 3 totems. Ruin, Undying, and Devour were gone. And in that moment, it's such a big map. All you're left is pain res. Now, the pain res hooks were actually pretty decent. I think they were pretty well spread out for Pedro, but I mean, there's only so much you can do on Mother's Dwelling at that point. Not a whole lot left in your arsenal, but unless we're loading back in for what could be our final trial here. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was Bubbo who's going to be piloting the Spirit for us versus Invictus' survivors. We are looking for, if I'm not mistaken, 4 stages for our survivor side. Bubbo just looking for that 6. Or, if I'm not mistaken, it was 5-3 Julia in the previous trial, right? So maybe another fresh with 5 stages still for our killer.
Yeah, and we are going to be loading in now. We have the most common build we've seen tonight. Honestly, the most common build in comp overall. Pop, Eruption, Pain Res, and Corrupt. The 4 staples of comp DBD, the full gen slowdown, full gen blocking there, and during our Corrupt, Bubbo is going to be looking around for our survivors. I wonder if they're going to play a little bit slower, but no, we see Kexo sending it towards this pallet gym here, and maybe a bit of a double back. No, he just sent it fully to the pallet gym. Bubbo going to be trying to hit his phase here, and we do land the phase onto Kexo, a much earlier tag than we saw in the previous trial, so an excellent start. And Robin, is this lack of scratch marks I see here, Cyber? Might be the Lucky Break perk coming through. We do have Lucky Star as well, and we get an excellent stun onto our killer. That is going to be him phasing once again, just instantly trying to drop these pallets, winning this, actually. Very good job by Kexo, despite being injured, to outplay Bubbo here, but we are playing around these double pallets and now have to win a second one. And actually, we slow vault this pallet. Cyber excellently played, an excellent chase. Gonna be trying it a 3rd time, and does he manage to juke? Yes, he does. Very, very good job by Robin. Gonna be kicking these pallets, zoning him towards the edge map. We only have a locker to work with, I think. Maybe trying to go for the Lucky Break, actually, trying to avoid the phase, or a Lucky Star, excuse me, trying to stifle his grunts of pain there for a second by getting into the locker and getting out, but it did not work. So we do get the first hook. Pain Res gonna be coming through as well, I think, on Dan's generator. And Bubbo has the option to go for fresh here. I wonder if he's going to take it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, especially considering we're also playing Pop Eruption. We have to commit so far to be able to regress these generators. Looks like we are going to, I think, find this was Spitz's generator. Spitz nowhere in sight, though. I would imagine Spitz is the one rotating for that unhook on the Kexo. 2 gens end up popping, Nightlight and Dan's respectively here, as Spitz immediately going for that reset off the hook. We're looking for the survivor who ended up popping this generator, and we are going to find them. It is going to be Dan around this tile, going for a short phase immediately. Do we catch survivor? It looks like maybe lost him, as Dan, with some good pathing, is going to buy a decent bit of distance. We have the Ghost Notes plus Lightweight, so we have an ability to get rid of our scratch marks very, very fast. We have the lights we're going to be using on that pallet. Phasing now, Dan going to be walking back at the killer, but doesn't pan out. But that mind game here is taking that injury. Wrapping now back to that TNL that we'd popped the gen at before. Nightlight on that 3rd gen, I think that's taking over Spitz's gen that already had been popping Eruption. So if Dan goes down here, Nightlight might end up screaming here as we're setting it to this filler pallet. This is going to be close, and Dan inevitably ends up on the floors. This will be our 2nd stage and presumably our 2nd Pain Res, depending on what RNG we have here. It looks like we are going to be carrying it not towards the basement. Ooh, maybe not. I'm unsure where Bubbo is trying to go currently. Looks like no longer going for that basement, instead now towards that bot mid. It's going to be close, but I think we do end up getting the survivor onto a hook here, as this will be our 2nd stage overall. If we do go for freshes and secure Nightlight and Spitz at least 1 stage, we only need 3 more overall.
Yeah, the insta unhook coming through on Dan as well, so we are going to be going straight back towards that unhook. Looks like a survivor heading it away from the shack. There is a Robin at the shack as well. You saw Kexo around the corner of the shack, but I think Bubbo wants to go for the injured survivor. We already have a health state lost, so might as well. We are going to be committing chase onto Dan. Dan with, I think he has Ghost Notes and Lightweight, so it might be a little bit harder to track him here. He is exhausted as well, so that Ghost Notes comes into play and will be playing very well around the main building. Just I think this is enough phase to catch up to him, but Bubbo catches that double back, catches that double vault. Gonna be getting the down onto Dan, so that will be a second stage. All we need right now is 2 more stages to get the tie, 2 more stages on 2 fresh survivors to get the win, like you said. So could be a little bit tricky now. I wonder if they have enough gen progress. I see a little bit of prog from Nightlight. Kexo might not be showing up in the HUD, but Spit's going to be getting the instant unhook once again, and Will Make It is active now, but I think Bubbo is coming back to the hook.
Maybe not, actually, as we did use our pop interruption here on this 4-lane gen. It looks like we're coming back to try to see if we can bait the survivor out. Looks like going to be kicking it once again here now. Just spotting between these 2 gens right now. We see what progress the survivors have. It looks like Bubbo is more than comfortable just forcing regression here. We do see Dan eventually get reset there. Due to that, Will Make It. Now Bubbo just going to be bouncing back and forth between them. Looks like we might end up trying to kick that gen. I'm unsure. It might be regressing still. I can't quite tell. But Bubbo just looking around trying to find where is Nightlight and where is Spitz. Those are the survivors we probably want to go for, even regardless of the fresh hooks for the win con. Those are our pain res survivors, so definitely going to be advantageous to go for them. It looks like, yeah, that is going to be regressing. I would assume that's the gen that ate the pop and eruption, but rotating now. No one spotted the survivor team, understanding the killer's playing more slow around the gens. We can match that tempo. We have a bit of a 3-gen to play over here. We are going to end up spotting. This is Dan and Spitz right now. It looks like they're phasing after Spitz. Do we end up catching up and getting this tag right now? Looks like we're spotting those scratch marks, and we do make it to that main building, dropping that pallet, but Bubbo wants nothing more to do with that, Julia.
Yeah, this is starting to look a little bit more possible for the survivors to get this this tie con, at least, maybe even the win con. Survivors playing their distance excellently. Everybody is healthy now. Bubbo has not found a chase quite yet. I think the survivor over here might have been stealthing or maybe just walked off completely, but we do manage to find them. I think it's Kexo here. Kexo taking chase on this filler pallet. I think dropping it on the correct side and does make a little bit of distance around, but will this be a swing and a hit? Yes, it will. We head straight towards that main building, and Kexo has this main to work with, but I mean, against the Spirit can be a little bit tricky, I think. She's going to be phasing after him, and he makes it to this filler and short swinging through the pallet, but Kexo does not drop, greeting it. I actually wonder if that was a tiny bit of auto-aim there, but I mean, regardless, we are playing around the main building quite well. I think we make it back to this window, but no, we don't. Barely getting that hit, and that was a little bit of a taste there, but yeah, I mean, Spitz taking a hit as well. We have a second... Wait. Is this gonna be maybe the win con here? We do have our 3rd survivor here who is fresh and facing after them. We know Spitz is kind of the win con here. We have to go after him to get that guaranteed fresh stage. And now with 2 survivors on the ground, I think we're just gonna be taking the hook, getting the pain res here to stop Nightlight's gen, which I think is the correct play, but not before Kexo gets picked up.
Yeah, as well, if we can get this pain res, it's going to be kind of close. We're carrying to a hook. I think we are just going to make it. Yes, we are. It's going to be pain res, slowing down Nightlight just a little bit right now. As this is our 4th stage, 3rd fresh overall. So 1 more stage on anyone, not Nightlight, is that tie. If we find Nightlight, is I think we'd fully cross the map, or maybe not actually. Looks like we're playing around the top side a little bit more. We're going to be trying to look for a survivor here, and looks like we are going to find some scratch marks here. But do we locate where the survivor is? I don't quite know, as we're loosely following the trail of where these survivors are. We're going to be pre-dropping this pallet. Nightlight is going to pop that final gen. Kexo is going to be the survivor who's going to be stuck here at this pallet, but a good read on the injured survivor is going to be a fast down for Bubbo. Looking around, just make sure nobody's here, no flashlights, no firecrackers. Oh, looks like we do end up spotting Dan, who's going to be playing quite aggressively, has the flashlight in hand. We see Spitz on the door, vaulting over that pallet. No light on this survivor, so that'll just be a fast injury there. As Kexo now, I imagine, going to be picked. No, we are still being patient, as this is still Dan playing quite aggressively and just using that phase to instead fake out and come back to get Kexo. This is the tie condition that's going to be met right now. 1 more stage is the win. Firecracker dropped, maybe hoping that we can get away with something there. But no, Bubbo just fully sitting in front of this hook. The doors do seem to be pretty far. This is a large map here. But these survivors, they need to come in for this unhook, Julia.
And we miss a skill check as well. The cherry on top. And they're actually going to be leaving. I'm a little surprised, but I think it's because of the penalty here that we're already in the win, right, Cyber? So it's not even the tie.
Oh.
The penalty from the Tomy skin is what the Invictus survivors are leaving for, because they cannot get this win. But yeah, if there wasn't a 0.5 hook penalty, maybe they would have gone for that save. Maybe they would have tried to get Kexo off the hook out through the exit gates. But yeah, that will be the win going to Umbrella. A very hard-fought match by both sides. There were some rough results, setting the results actually on the killer end. I think we had a 3-stage, then a 6-stage, and then a 5-stage. So I mean, all three matches the Survivor teams had to play for some very difficult results here, and they tried their hearts out, did their best. But I think for the most part, the second half of Survivors did win almost every time. So yeah, playing for those difficult win cons, these are the teams that can do it for sure. But it didn't come through today. So I mean, yeah, very good job to Team Umbrella. They did excellently. I don't know if you have any more remarks, Cyber or Mathis, but I mean, that was very fun for me to cast and watch.
You have to make one quick correction on screen. It says Umbrella lost and Invictus won, but it is in fact Umbrella. We had some issues with the score card because Invictus and Umbrella decided to swap swap order last second before the match started, and for some reason our scoreboard didn't update. So this is in fact Umbrella's 6 hook result and Invictus's 4.5. So that is Umbrella taking it 2-1. But yeah, let's jump into some of the replays here that we still have available. I'll pass the torch back to you, Cyber.
I think this first play is going to be what an open. Like you said, a lot of these games, the serves are playing for such difficult results. But in all of the games they did, it was looking doable. The first chases that were had by the Survivor teams were always so good. And this is the first one of the Spirit game. Kexo played phenomenally on these double pouts, just 50-50ing. Bubbo didn't expect Kexo to vault into the husk, because if you don't know, if a Spirit blocks a pallet properly with the husk and the Survivor vaults into it, you get kind of stuck inside the Spirit, and if the Spirit identifies it, it's just a free hit every single time. So a great mind game there by Kexo, even while injured. The locker force at the end there didn't really do too much. I think we, like you said, we're maybe hoping to get Lucky Star, but the killer saw us get in. There's not much we can really do in those moments, so we just hopped out once again, almost instantly. But a good first chase by Kexo to definitely give their best attempt to get this rolling, to get that win con they needed.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think this is our last matchup of the week so far. We had, if you guys look at the bracket, it's *bracket. You can do that in the chat and you will be able to see. But the winner of this match today, which is Umbrella, will be going on to face X9 tomorrow, or not tomorrow, excuse me, next weekend. So stay tuned for that. That'll be really exciting, I think. But a lot of these teams have only been seeded in the second round. So that is X9, that's Petroleum, I believe. That's Serene, and that's Onyx. So we haven't seen any of them quite yet, but we will be seeing them in round 2. And the teams that have gotten eliminated so far, which is Invictus, Aegis, Oh Boy, and Praxis, they have not fully gotten eliminated. They are down to the losers bracket, so that will be exciting. There's not all hope lost for those teams either. They'll be playing against each other in the upcoming weeks as well. Mathis, I don't know if you have anything else that you want to say, but I think that's it for me.
And Jules, you've already prepared the audience very well for what is to come next weekend. The bracket is about to pop up on screen, but yes, that is going to conclude round 1, and that is also going to conclude the best of 3 format, because every game from now on will be a best of 5. So expect roughly twice the amount of games, twice the amount of suffering, twice the amount of success from all our teams. But yeah, we have it on screen right now. So yeah, Umbrella Invictus, the winner advances and faces X9 next week. The loser, Invictus, descends to the lower bracket. And yeah, if in case you're confused about why these two teams met to begin with in round 1, is because the seeding was fully randomized. So nobody could tell who was going to be placed where, and especially also with the 12-team format that we have, 4 teams were granted a privilege to skip straight to round 2. X9 being one of those lucky few, meaning we'll see them next week for the very first time this tournament. The same also applies to Petroleum, Serene, and Onyx, who will be going against the winners of round 1 next week. And the week after, we will descend to the lower bracket, and that is also where, as lower bracket already indicates, the first sets of teams will be eliminated from the tournament as in fashion for double elimination. So you eliminated once, you get one last shot in the lower bracket, but slip once, lose again, and that's the end of the road for you. Eliminated fully from the tournament. We have so many games still ahead of us. This only barely scratched the surface. We are now 1 week into this tournament. We've got 5 to go. So yeah, quick maths, 1/6 is over. And there's still so much that we want to improve on, so much that we want to change. There's definitely going to be some adjustments for next week. One thing I really need to point out, because a lot of people were complaining about the balancing for good reason. Unfortunately, some select perks didn't update on Balance by Daylight, which is the program or the website that the players use. So Vigil and Lucky Break, especially those two, are supposed to be general banned on All Killer. So my mistake for not checking it 5 times, even though I did check it before and it worked. But once the teams decided to make their builds, it didn't anymore. But I'll update that right after the stream, so don't worry about that. Those perks will be general banned, definitely, and we might just make some more adjustments based on what we've seen this first week. I've got my eyes on the combination of Pain Res and Grim Embrace as well, because of that's probably the most used combination we've seen so far, the most threatening to survivors. But yeah, we will need to collect a good amount of more data to really make an educated decision on what we want to change exactly, because there's still so much to see. And just having seen Spirit in that around 6 stage range is where she is supposed to be via the balancing. Also, the Freddy games were around in that area, so I'm happy with those results, to say the least. But yes, that is it about the games for today. Cyber, do you have any finishing words for today? This week, even?
Not at all. No, not for me. I'm just excited to see we get those teams that got the privilege of having that advantage of seeing all these teams play, understanding, well, this is the result you're expecting for these maps now. A little bit of usage of the new items, the different perks that are available. I'm intrigued to see where teams end up going. Like you said, we haven't seen X9, Petroleum, Onyx, and Serene, so looking forward to those next week games.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Jules, is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I mean, very exciting couple of matches. If you guys haven't watched some of the matches back, I definitely recommend you doing so. The last couple of days, we had some very interesting matches. I think in particular Saturday or Sunday was very interesting to watch. The Sinners versus Praxis match that ended in a 2-1, I believe. It was a very interesting nurse tiebreaker, so some Blight and I think Vecna, Lich, that is, the Lich Vecna in the first round. So that was very fun to watch for sure. The others as well. Elysium Oboe was yesterday. The Oni game was incredible to watch and cast. I cast that myself. And Aegis versus Mercy on Saturday. But yeah, today's game, very interesting, I think. Just very all-around unexpected results, I think, but Survivor gameplay on top, and that was, I think, what got them the win from Umbrella side. Their Survivor side was so incredibly played and so well performed, but very well done to Umbrella here. We are going to be, I think, concluding the stream for now, right, Mathis?
Yep, we're getting ready to, well, the work only begins, really, or it's the next chapter once we finish today, because, yeah, this was the first week of this event, and that includes also this entire league, this organization, so a big thank you to the community that has tuned in for these first couple games, this first week, because, yeah, this is a big learning curve for us. This is, again, as I've stated numerous times before, this is a sort of an experimental tournament. Obviously, we're trying to give it our absolute best to, yeah, show the community what we're capable of, but there is so much more to see, so much more to work on that my entire team is extremely excited to do. And I also have to, one thing that, considering this is a new Twitch account, we weren't affiliate, and I received an email during this matchup. Yes, you have leveled up to Twitch affiliate, so there we go. We'll have probably some emojis and other add-ons for the next stream, so that's hype. Finally it happened. But yeah, I mean, we jumped from, in the seeding stream already blew away my expectations. We had, I think, 60 viewers, and now we're already pushing 200 after 3 or 4 streams, so absolutely incredible. Big thank you to the community. Also, we really appreciate the feedback, because obviously there's a lot that we are very happy to hear. Again, this is a whole I don't want to say playground, but it's a construction site, work in progress, even though you're already seeing that one of the best tournaments and one of the best productions on record in the history of CompDVD. But yeah, still there's don't want to toot my own horn too much or exploit the egos of my team and working in the background. But everybody's been doing such an amazing job, and I'm extremely proud of this project. I'm extremely proud of the team, and I hope the community is just as proud being able to be, or being represented by something like this. But yeah, we are looking forward to a very big and bright future. Before we end the stream, obviously need to extend my gratitude to my team and name them directly. So that, first of all, starting with Cyber and Jules, who managed to cast the matchup today. So big thank you to you, especially Milay working in the background as well, getting the lobby set up, making sure that everything is in order, having an eye on the rules, the balancing, etc. Then Wolfi, who's been moderating the chat. And I'm pretty sure that's everybody we had available today. I'm gonna make absolutely sure. So obviously I could just go, well, thank you to Flo for the scoreboard, and Pikz for the graphic design, because he does most of it. In case you were curious who's behind that. But it's a joint effort. The whole team is kind of contributing to it, but Pikz is probably doing like 70 to 90% in that area. So fantastic job by him, as always. That's why I have him. So yeah, is there anything else to add? Well, yeah, stay tuned for next week. We're gonna open the match channels very, very soon, because obviously we need to get the pick and bans done for the teams and also the scheduling ready. Yeah, that is Mathis signing out. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Play the trailer.